I'm gonna start right now. We're doing it.
Okay.
Oh,
We're doing it.
I forgot to put in a name. Okay, ask a question. I always forget this step. Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody. I think we're live. This is.
Oh
we're
my
live,
god.
And we're live
We are?
with Sekai. And he has new songs and projects for us. And wow, would you?
I do.
He does actually. He has some really
I
amazing
do.
stuff. Like this. What we're about to play. That's probably really loud, but so we're warning
Very
you.
loud.
Cyberspace where anger can arise to take me down, to leave me bitter. Get out my system. Get out my system. Get out my system. Get out my system.
Loud. Everyone's saying it's loud.
Get out my system. I can't find another reason. You can't tell me what the seasons do. I've been running for a reason to stay alive, stay alive. I've been doing all that I can do. I just look into your eyes and look at me back, baby. Look at me back, baby.
Tracks like that. But also,
Oh.
we have a drum and bass track, which we're going to check out afterwards, called Rain, which is out.
Hell yeah.
When is it out, Sekai?
When is it out? It's gonna be. It's already on Spotify and every other streaming service, but it's gonna be out officially tomorrow.
Whoa, okay,
on
but
SoundCloud.
they can go listen to it now on Spotify?
They can go listen to it now on Spotify.
Whoa,
Wish I had
that's
Reverb in
game
there.
changing right there. If you haven't heard of Spotify yet, I think it's this up and coming like platform. You can listen to music on it. So, oh yeah, and then after those two things, we're gonna check out Where We Are, which is, I think it sounds amazing. What would you call that type of music song?
Well, which one? The one after?
Yeah, the Where We Are.
Yes, I would call it. Well, it's technically down tempo. You can call it electronica as well if you want.
Okay,
It's down
well,
tempo
I'm
slash
gonna call it
electronica.
really good, because if you haven't heard it, it's a really awesome song. So that's, I think it'd be a really nice one also to end the stream with. So maybe we should go back to kind of like an introduction to where, well, like, you sent Canvas in a couple months ago, back on an earlier feedback live stream, and it was amazing then, and it blew everybody away. And kind of, is it basically like, was it already in a finished state or 99% done? Then is there much?
It was 99% done. I fixed the things that you feedbacked me in a few things. For example, the vocals being too quiet, and I fixed that in the final version. Sadly, there was a bit of an error when Spotify, it got badly distributed. So if you go and listen on Spotify, it's not really the same version that's on SoundCloud, which is a bit lame. But it
sucks.
like it's pretty much kind of the same thing anyways. You're hopefully still gonna enjoy it and stuff.
Okay. Everybody says my mic's quiet. I'm gonna just boost my gain. Hey. Hopefully that's even better now, but we'll find out.
Way better.
Yes, except you can kind of hear me like do that a lot more. Okay. Yeah, so this is the track. Oh yeah, and by the way,
Yes.
we're also going to do like another question thing, just like we did with Tasking Black and Inverted Silence.
Yeah, boy!
Oh boy!
Sekai, is it true you like big boys with small asses?
No, I like them thick.
Yeah, that's
Although I do like the big boys, but I do also like them thick.
yeah. You have to have them like well-rounded. No skimping out. Thank you.
Smet's being mean to me, Dad.
Just give me the signal, and I'll put him on the timeout again. You know, it's
It was so sad last time you did it.
Oh yeah. So there's a link in the description, a Gleam link if you want to get like some questions asked, some real hard hitting questions. You got a burning questions for Sekai. Well, here's your chance. Go into the Gleam link.
Just punch him. Just punch that Gleam link
Just
in the
punch
face.
the Gleam link. Just go, and your everything will come like it will be solved. Your whole life. I guess where should we start with this track? By the way, I didn't tell you this, but I did add like your master chain. So what Sekai does is he usually he has a mix session, so there's no master, and then he'll put like the bounce mix version into a new FL Studio and just master that mix version. Kind of like, what they used to do in the old days, where you have a mix and then you send it to a mastering engineer and then he masters it. So kind of like that, but you do it to save CPU, you said.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
There's two reasons why I do it. First off, to save CPU, and second, because I want to basically be able to quote-unquote restrict myself. There's this thing that I believe in where the master's only going to be good, like you can't polish a turd, so like I want the mix to be as perfect as it can be, so that the master process is like minimal and there's not a lot of perfecting and fixing. It's mostly for for what it's supposed to do, which is make it loud and compressed and stuff.
Yeah. I think it's like a pretty good technique, and probably like for people who are especially starting out, because a master can definitely like ruin your whole entire mix. So
yeah, because mixing based on your master can usually lead to a few unpleasant results. And then if you take off the master chain and create another, then you will see that your mix is probably sounding like shit.
Yeah,
and you don't really.
Yeah, I can attest, because I like do it the wrong way, I would say, quite often. And then I do go back and I take my master off. I'm like, wow, this is just terrible. Oh, why? Yeah. But yeah, I think like your mixes definitely do stand out on their own. Like when you sent this the first time, I believe it was just the mix and like not a master session, and it was already
it's just a mix.
Yeah, so. This is just the mix version, and then when I turn back on the master, of course, it's going to sound louder because it's compression. But this will give you like a good sort of before and after of the Sekai master, which I think is like pretty cool to listen to. This is the mastered version. So yeah, this is definitely more like studio level loudness. Bit more like brighter and clearer, so I like that. I like the mastered.
Yay.
Okay, yeah. So I suppose drums is a pretty good place to start off. Is there anything in particular about drums that you? And also, I would like just to point out that this is great. Like wow, look at all this. Everything's just colors everywhere. It's all perfect.
Colored and organized.
Yeah,
I still remember. There was this time, a bit of a spoiler alert. There was this time I was working with, Dylan, and I was kind of I felt like I was boring you with all my organization.
No,
because I was just I added a sound and then I organized everything, and I don't know as many shortcuts on FL as you do.
Yeah.
So I pretty much just start organizing everything in a bit of a slower fashion, as if you were to do it.
Yeah, I think like watching like you produce like, oh no, you can do that quicker, or you can do, because I have nothing against organization. It's probably it's like having a messy project is never really fun to work with at all. So yeah, onto drums. We got a kick. We got a nice kick. Oh, that's not showing on the screen, so I need to...
Oh yeah, there's a lot of shit that's detached.
Yeah,
Sorry
detached.
about that.
So I can... There's a shortcut to like detach everything, and then undetach everything. Well, bam, and now everything is undetached. That's such a cool... I didn't know that.
Wait, is there actually a thing?
Yeah.
I actually didn't know you could undetach everything with a shortcut.
Yeah, in general,
Would've
there's
made
like
my
a
life
switch
great.
for it. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
but it
awesome.
usually detaches. I didn't know it undetached. Okay,
that's
that's
what it does as well. Like once you untick it, then everything just reverts back to being undetached. So that's...
Oh wow, I see Rob Gasser in chat. Look at that.
Wow. Can we do a...
Wow.
That's what we're doing. I meant to do a... Like, for like when I announced you as a, like, you know, like it's a show and we have like a guest, an audience.
At least you tried. You tried.
I
and
tried.
appreciate
that.
that.
You didn't give me a lot of like before prep time, because so like you literally came from like you just arrived like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I came like I was came from a 2-hour trip and I just came back, set up my PC real quick, and I was like, yeah, let's call Dylan.
Bam.
And then you
straight
called
onto
me.
the stream. Okay, so yeah, let's mute everything except for the drums, because I just want to focus on the drums. Let's just do that. I think that's cool. Yeah. Shame you can't have groups and groups in the playlists for FL Studio.
When that happens, I swear my life's gonna be way better. Oh,
Diogo you mom gay. 3.
ah, no, you, my friend, no, you.
Okay, we got all the things turned off. So yeah, kick. And a snare, and like I noticed, like, you know, the drums are kind of broken down at first. That's probably to like accentuate the synths, and like that's a very common thing where like it goes into the drop and it's like just a bass sound or just like a lead, and then everything else comes back in later, and they do come back in later because like, wow, there's lots of hi-hats and
That's something that I
rides
quite
and
enjoy
crashes, kick. So yeah, it's a nice sounding
It's
kick.
an interesting, there's an interesting an interesting reason for those like fast hi-hats. Usually people do use those kinds of hi-hats to make those like trappy rolls, but I was like, this drop kind of needs a bit more intensity. And instead of just layering it, because if you'll see in the synths and bass sections, I have layered an extra layer of chords when they LFO, so it's more intense and loud. And I felt like it still needed something else, high percussion-wise. And I was like, what better way to make it more intense than some really fast-firing hi-hats? And it worked, so I left them in.
Nice. These are like, what, 32 beat? Like, not 32 beat, but like 32.
Yeah, they're super quick. Yeah, they're super quick.
Yeah, like off the grid, quick. Yeah. Bit of reverb on the snare. Oh, okay. That's why you're like this. I own you. I own this plugin. But okay, we'll come
What
back.
did it do?
Oh, it showed up like, hey. Oh yeah, am I not showing you my screen? That's annoying. I should just do that.
Yeah, you know, I'm looking it through.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
looking
gonna be
through
super
my,
delayed for you.
Through the live
I
stream.
didn't realize that. Okay, let me
No,
just
it's
fix that for you.
If you have the bandwidth to do that, hell yeah.
We'll find out. Okay.
I see it all.
Great, that's awesome. And then you'll be able to actually see. Okay, well then I guess we'll start to work up. You got white noise layers. Is it kind of like just a alternative way of, or just like you use it as a sort of hi-hat sort of thing? Because it's like
Pretty much a way. It's pretty much a way to fill up the high end of the high end of the spectrum. Pretty much, like I just wanted the chords to be a bit brighter. Turns out the first time before I even showcased you the project, that that was too noisy, a bit too loud, a bit too high-endy. So I had to kind of tone it down. But it's still there. It still serves a purpose. It fills up the chords a bit more in those high regions. That's why I added it there. And it adds a bit of rhythm, because if you notice the little noise thingy is not on top of every single chord. It's on top of most of them, but like for example the low pass chords and everything. Just gives it a bit of character, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh yeah, and like a few other things. A salt shaker. Is this actually something? Nice, very ambient-y.
Yeah, that was actually me recording my salt. Like I had a salt packet at home, and I was like, this needs a bit of percussion, and I don't know if I have the Foley that I want exactly. So I just shook a salt pack on my microphone.
Okay.
And then panned it left to right. It was really cool.
Some people are saying like the video delay is out of sync. I think it's more just to do with the master, because this isotope 5 is on like a setting where if you look in the top left corner, it has almost 400 milliseconds of latency, which is basically half a second. So this the video is going to be the audio is going to be delayed by literally half a second.
Yeah, Isotope's compression settings will always have that latency. There's no going around it.
No.
So,
there's no way around that.
It's the best plugin that I have for mastering, so I gotta do that. I gotta use it.
No, it's a good one. It's pretty much the go-to, but like the industry standard for EDM at least. Maybe not every genre,
Pretty
but
much, yeah.
Okay, yeah, subs. Oh yeah, I hear the white noise stands out.
Yep.
Sausage fattener on the sub, good choice.
Yeah, sausage fattener is just like saturation. Could have used Camel Crusher, could have used just a basic wave shaper, but
yeah, I mean that's all if you're using it for.
Yeah, simple, quick, gets the job done. Pretty much.
And what are you doing for the sidechain? Because I see there's like a sidechain thing up here.
Okay, so those are like if you click that pattern, that's pretty much just a MIDI trigger.
It's MIDI out.
That MIDI out is routed to if you go to the sidechain track.
Yeah.
There's a track that every bus is routed to, almost every bus.
Yeah. So the bass.
Like bass, melody, and
not
SFX
the vocals,
are. Yeah, because the vocals you don't
effects.
want them sidechained. And the drums also, just a few individual drum tracks are routed there.
Okay.
Not all the drums, because you're not going to sidechain a kick, obviously.
No, that's just madness. But this small crash and this crash are
going into the sidechain. A few
That's
of the
something
hats.
I always like wonder. It's like, oh, should I actually sidechain like the hi-hats or the crashes or something like that?
It depends. There are times nowadays that I don't put everything in a bus. If I want to sidechain something separately and make it very specific, I pretty much just add another volume shaper with the same routings and make the curve less. I make it ductless and make it a bit more subtle, so I don't sidechain everything the same way.
Yeah.
But in that project, I did kind of the old mixing style where everything that was sidechained the same.
Yeah, I think for like most cases you can usually get away with that, but then there are cases where you don't want to sidechain vocals as hard as you're sidechaining your bass or your synths.
You usually don't want to sidechain vocals actually, unless you're doing like this kind of 80s track. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Unless it's like vocal chops, or you're doing this kind of 80s track where like Madionish style, where your vocals kind of pump through. Basically, sidechaining them slightly is always kind of cool.
Okay. Yeah, and then on top of this sub, we have a square. And it's almost like, it kind of just adds on to the sub, because you're already like adding saturation with your sub, to get extra harmonics. And like, if we look above, that's why there's not just like a pure sine wave fundamental, but there's extra. But then like the
the way I achieved that was with FM. just FMing a sine wave with another sine wave 2 octaves up. That's how you get those harmonics.
Really, the square wave thing?
No, the sub. That's how I got the harmonics in there. It was all sausage.
Because I was just assuming, it's probably just a sine wave, but actually you've done, that's just cool. You've done a little bit more. So I could like just play the sine in. Wow, yeah, so that's pure sine wave. And then you're using this extra slight FMing just to get... Whoa!
There's a bunch of people that just low pass a square, but I realized that doing it this way gives you a bit more control over the harmonics that you want. And if you want to make that kind of like bass slide where the bass note goes a bit too loud, the low pass is not going to affect it. So like it's not low pass, it's just that. So the harmonics are going to stay the same in every range of the spectrum.
That's nice. It's a good sound. It's always funny, like sometimes like you like get sort of like a warble effect with like these low notes.
It sounds like it, but it's actually like I remember when you were reviewing the project for the first time, you said that the sub sounded like it was it had a bit of an LFO, but it actually doesn't, which is cool.
Yeah, because when you look at the EQ, some of like the harmonics just kind of like are moving about. So I'm guessing that's just part of the FM, because that's what FM does. It's literally like moving frequencies up and down. So that just must be like
pretty much
a side effect of that.
Oh hey, NCS officials in the house.
Hey!
This is my new song from my EP titled Canvas.
Yeah, so more layering onto that sub. Well, really, it's just a bass to go over the sub, not really part of the sub, but sound is fat. Okay, and what's going on here with these volume automations, actually? That's what I'm meaning to...
Okay, those aren't volume automations. Those are... wait, which ones are you talking about? Those little...
I kind of just meant both, but like one's volume and one's mix.
Okay, so the first one... It just go ahead and solo a track and play it with the automation.
So the top one.
Say. So you can see what it does.
Oh.
That's an LFO.
Oh. So what? Yeah. So that's
so instead of just chopping it up, I just decided to add a volume shaper, which is pretty much an LFO machine if you leave it untriggered with MIDI notes. And pretty much what it does is just creates a little LFO like that, like a little gate.
Sick.
And
wow.
Yeah,
cool.
Pretty much what's happening. The sub is probably like the same thing as well. Actually, no. I forgot.
I think you just make it louder.
Okay. I remember why I did that. I wanted it to be more intense, and the sub sound, because I did something to the sub where in that part I wanted it to be more intense, but it didn't come across that way. So I had to increase the sub in volume. That's why the balance is there. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember now.
Yeah.
It's been ages since I touched that project, so excuse me if I missed something.
That is okay. Everything is forgiven. That is fine. Yeah, of course. Yeah, when you hear it, then so that's really cool. So yeah, you get the cool sustained notes, and then the so that changes up the rhythm. And now we have these bass stabs. So I'm gonna assume they're also kind of gonna be choppy. Like, yeah. So these layer on top. Yeah, boy. Oh.
Less than three.
Aww.
Cute.
Less than 3 to you too.
Yes, thank you, Shawan. So yeah, we got some more. These are really like kind of like analog-y sounding.
Pretty much what that is well, like I layered that to make it a bit more intense. Again, more prominent in volume. Just a little pluck to make those stabs come across, because if you take those off, it's probably still going to sound kind of the same, but the gate's going to be more of a smooth LFO-ish gate instead of you feeling those stabs punch through you, like I wanted that section to be more intense like that, and that just gives it that feel. If you go up to the chords as well, to the synths, there's another layer that does the same.
Yeah, so I see this volume shaper thing, so I'm going to assume that
there's
it's
which is the same chords. But then below that, there's another chord stack, which kind of does the same as that bass stack. So it makes it more stabby.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, there's just tons of layers, layering up your sounds. Yeah, I hear the difference with this. It's just an extra thing, and it also makes it sound like ever so like sonically different for these sections, giving it a bit more variation. That's really nice. I also like your use of space in this track. Breaks and having pauses. I think that's pretty important for like making the parts that are loud have more impact. Otherwise, if it's loud like constantly, then it wouldn't really have it. All those peaks and stops and builds are really important for the flow of a track, I find.
Exactly. If it didn't have that, it would be just a constant wall of sound, which can work. But for the context of this tune, where I wanted it to have those kind of like vibey, chill moments, that is very important to have as well.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we should probably start like layering on to so let's check out the chords, because these are like boy.
Hello dear. Lovely stream less than 3. This will be my only donation. Hope it's okay less than 3.
It is more than okay. It's lovely, just like you. Thank you.
Welcome, Phantom Sage. You stinky.
Oh, is he? Oh, wow. Okay.
He's in there.
So, look at these big chords. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of notes, I have to say. So let's go. Whoa. Okay, and there's a lot of layers as well. I'm gonna just get a quick little piano. And before we go into the sound design, I just want to talk about music theory.
Oh boy, I suck at it.
Okay.
Believe it or not, but go ahead.
So okay, where do you start with when you're trying to come up with chords or progressions? Ooh, nice.
So there's pretty much it depends on the flow I want to go for with the track. This track I wanted something a bit more vibey, more intense, and I just felt like the chords that I envision in my head, because there's some people are able to do it, some people not so much. They need more help in regard from theory. But I can just write chords in my head, and I don't know what the name of the chords are, what the hell, what kind of chords, what kind of scale, what kind of key even, unless I check.
Yeah.
And I just put them down on the DAW the way I hear them, and pretty much they just kind of work. And those chords were actually some of the hardest ones that I've had to put down ever, because that's a bit more complex than some of the chord progressions that I'm used to. There's a lot of bends there, notes going up and down, the bass notes, the root notes of the chords going up and down, and boy! Oh boy.
This is lit.
Ah, thank you.
High praise from Kevin. Thank you.
But yeah, the dun dun dun, those parts were really, really hard for me to get right. Those were the one parts of the song that got me a bit stumped, because I wanted them to sound exactly like how I had them in my head.
Yeah.
And then there was these notes that were kind of off, and I was like, I need to fix this here and there, and putting notes up and down. And then I came up with a progression that sounded good enough, and that's how the chorus came to be. I'm not very good with theory or anything, though. One thing that I know is that I use a lot of seventh notes on my tracks. In almost every track that I have, seventh notes are always going to be in there.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
So what I noticed from looking at the chords is that like there's kind of two themes. Like you could essentially dumb the chords down if you wanted to call it that.
Yeah.
I thank you for streaming at 4 a.m. over here at Australia. Clapping hands, clapping hands, clapping hands. It's worth it though, less than 3.
Wow, 4 a.m. That's
Wow.
That's really late. I hope you
That
don't have
is
like
late.
it's Sunday, so I hope you don't have a lot of like work or school in the morning, because you're gonna feel that. So like there are two themes. You have this da da. Oh, I'm gonna turn off the mashing just for a second. And then the second part.
Yeah.
So those are those are like the main, like you could take away like these in between sort of chords and it would still be kind of the same progression in a way.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then those other things kind of just add a sort of, or like a sort of fill, a melodic fill to
Yes.
Bum, bum, bum.
If you notice, my track doesn't really have a lead. The way I constructed those chords is the top the top notes of those chords always stand out more, which is usually the case.
Yeah.
But I constructed it in such a way that pretty much the top chords of them are basically the lead. The notes that you're hearing, the chords are the lead essentially, and that was one of the only tracks where I did that and it worked. It didn't need a lead or else it would feel too weird. I don't know. I guess I never really tried putting in a lead because I was like, why bother if it already sounds good the way it does?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you shouldn't overcomplicate your sounds.
Wow, that's wise words.
I try.
Oh yeah, so like if people were wondering what is a seventh chord, by the way, very quickly, briefly explained the seventh chord. So also what I noticed is like a lot of these like chords that you do use have a sort of fifth at the bottom.
Yeah.
So they go down from like a na na. Where does it go? It goes to an A.
Yeah, boy.
Oh.
Yo, less than 3.
Well, it kind of stuttered over that yo.
Kind of stuttering.
But
That was beautiful.
She tried her best. So yeah, these seventh chords. So yeah, if you have like a sort of a regular, like a major minor chord, then the next note up would be, so you wouldn't go to A but to B, because you tend to like skip a note every time you're making chords. So, you know, C, skip D, go to E, skip F, go to G, skip A, go to B. So that's that seventh chord right there. They call that the seventh.
Right there, yeah.
And then like, yeah, you're basically like not just having it like built up like, okay, one note, then the next note, then the next, but then you put that one up an octave, and then you repeat the seventh again just for like extra, like I find like when you repeat notes, you can like just strengthen certain like melodies within the chords.
Yes.
And where's that? Oh no, that G was the fifth, and then yeah, that B, that's the seventh again. So yeah, those have been repeated twice. And this, you know, personally, I think this sounds a lot more fuller than just having, for instance, this.
Exactly.
This is just more spread out. It's spread out, which is also nice, because sometimes when you have like chords that are just dense, they sound dense, and they're just like it feels very weighty in the mix as well. But then yeah, this is just a lot more lusher sounding.
I tend to keep the low, like I stack up my chords. Usually my chords in average have about 6 notes when I'm constructing music. In this case, in this song, they have 7 notes each chord. I like to keep them.
Oh wow!
Like
okay. Consistent.
So Yeah, consistent with every chord, because sometimes adding an extra note can also add either a bit of volume or a bit more character in a chord that you don't want to have character. You just want to keep it consistent. Basically, on average, I do add 6 though, and
But
pretty
yeah,
much
some of
what I
those
tend to
notes
do.
might be notes that you're
Yeah.
like the G here is used twice, or
Yeah,
the...
exactly. And the way why I do that is because in the bottom parts, like the root notes and the fifth one above, like or seventh one above, they're usually kept like that, very spacious, nothing really in between, not to fill it up too much. And on the top, that's where the character, the like the balls of the fucking chords are. So pretty much what you want to do is keep the bottom clean and keep it simple, and then on the top construct your chords in a way that makes them have more character, and you give it the character that you want by changing one note here a bit to the top. You change this one, maybe you want in a different place from the, even if the next chord is essentially the same, maybe you want the placement of the note to be slightly different, so it adds a different characteristic to the chord itself. And that's what I tend to do mostly with my chord constructions. It's all based on the way I want them to feel in relation to each other.
Yeah. And yeah, as you were saying, like the lead, like the top note is like, you kind of structure the top note of the chorus to be the sort of lead of the song. And I think like if we play this,
Yeah.
like yeah, that sounds like the lead. And when like you play it with the whole progression, then like that's kind of the melody, that's kind of the line that sticks out the most. And instead of like, you know, I don't think people are going to be singing this D to C to D D, because that's buried in
Exactly.
with other chords. But like the ones at the top really do stand out. So that's always like an interesting sort of phenomenon, I suppose. And okay, so like then chords. And oh my goodness, there are lots of layers here. You have... Okay, so they're all going to the same bus. So I'll leave it on the bus for now. But yeah, why so many layers?
So pretty much, first off, why I'm gonna go through the layers because I know them by heart already. Every layer that I use.
So each has a function.
Exactly. The first layer is basically dry saws. If you noticed, there's only saws in there. There's no detuning. There's no several voices. It's just a saw wave.
Okay.
And it has the pitch bend in that case. It does have the pitch bend going up, and then the LFO that makes it wobble around.
Oh yeah.
Because if you notice, the first LFO it's an envelope that makes the chord go up like
like a pitch attack.
Yeah. Exactly. And the second LFO just basically makes it vibrate over time because there's a rise on that LFO that basically the LFO gets more intense over time.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
So basically, the purpose of the chord itself, the layer that is a dry saw, is to keep things full-bodied.
Yes.
Pretty much.
No detune, no stereo separation. Because yeah, this is completely mono.
Exactly, and you want that mono layer because if like you're gonna add more layers, and most of those layers, in fact, all of those layers are gonna be stereo. You want to have more of a mono thing in there to kind of balance it out, and that's the purpose of those more dried out saw waves, is to keep the balance. Because if everything was too stereo, you wouldn't really have any power in those chords. It needs a bit of that mono balance in there.
And then layer 2, and I see now we're starting to get some unison going on.
Exactly. Usually, the way I do the layer 2, 3, and 4, they're essentially the same, except the difference between those 3 layers is with each layer that goes up, I add 1 octave up, obviously, and then I add more detune in the voices, and maybe sometimes I add more voices in each layer.
I see that. Yeah, these are actually...
the purpose of that is basically, and also I variate them in volume. So the higher ones are usually just a tad bit quieter, or else it would sound too detuned, too thin. You want those lower chords to stand out more because those are the ones that have the bigger body. The ones that are higher are there to give it that shininess and to give it that that shimmeriness that stands out in your ears and makes it like very pleasing.
Yeah.
Because if you notice, like if you have that shininess, that shimmeriness, without having the body, just go ahead and play the one or the two layers on top by themselves. You're gonna sound that they sound good, they sound fine, but it's not really that pleasant, is it?
No, it's like really sort of weird in a way. It's very like
it's weird
like
in
a
a way.
carnival music sort of.
Yeah, it could work in a certain context, but overall they're just gonna sound weird and they're gonna sound thin. That's why you need those lower layers to give it the body, whilst the shine just kind of works with it.
Nice, really nice. Okay, and then oh yeah, so that's this volume shaper that's getting automated on. That would be that's the gate. A cool little sort of trancey gate thing. Some reverb.
Yep.
Just to give it space, I suppose.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like it's very dry without. This has space. What's your approach to like reverb? When do you not use it? Like when? How do you know? Like this needs reverb.
Okay. So if you're gonna notice, most of the elements in this track, most synths and some of the basses have reverb. A lot of stuff in my track has reverb, and I always know where to put it. For example, even in dubstep basses, like those heavy ones, where even though that track doesn't really have dubstep basses, I do put some reverb, but not as much. You want to know where the track needs to feel spacious and airy and shiny, because that's essentially what reverb does. It makes it feel more spacious. It makes it adds a lot of shimmer and life into the sound, or else it would sound too dry. You want to know which kind of sound you're working with, and you want to know how much you want it to stand out in which area. If you want it to stand out like up in your face, punching you with sound, or if you want it to just like make you feel flowy, like you want it to get you in a more airy level, like you're fucking flying or something. I visualize a lot of these things. And
I like how like your visualization for was that you were flying, like
because that's how you feel. Like if you listen to this track, there's a certain kind of air hitting your face.
Yeah, I would definitely say air. Yeah.
Exactly, and pretty much that's kind of how I work with reverb. Open and spacious in those sorts of more melodic sounds. They need to be more open. They need to give you that air, that little ambience, that very pleasant kind of vibe going on. Whilst some other elements, like bass element, like for example that lower bass, the square bass, usually it doesn't really have a lot of reverb, but that one has chorus. But sometimes, if I want it to sound a bit more spacious, I do have some reverb, and it's very like the space is very small in it, and I also add the decay like very down, so it doesn't drag out too much.
Yeah.
Every sound in your music, in your song, needs space. You're not going to have a sound that will not have space. It's not going to be there up in your face all the time. It's always going to stay a bit further back, or it's going to have something in the air, give it a bit of shine, a bit of cleanness, because if you have your basses and your chords and everything too dry, it's just not going to sound very pleasant. It's just going to sound very dry and very boring in a few ways,
lifeless a bit.
Yeah, it depends a lot on the context on which you use the reverb, and for that matter, every other effect. but in most cases, you want to at least give it a tiny bit of life.
Yeah. Okay, and so I don't think we've heard it really so far. Really being combined now with the layers. Oh yeah, and then the last thing, of course, was to check the EQ. And the other EQ. And yeah, so this is I believe, a sort of high pass EQ, using this to high pass, because I see this.
I use that to high pass and low pass.
Yeah.
In fact, for that reason, I use it to low pass right there.
Okay, is that what this is doing? This is a low pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'll
So that's
show
pretty
that on
much right.
screen, just so people
Yeah.
can see that.
The parametric EQ.
Cool.
Yeah, parametric EQ, I mostly use it for filtering. I don't like the way it works, but it's very simplistic for filtering, and it's an FL native plugin, so you don't have to go into the to that pesky like
Oh, I know what you're talking
when
about.
you use
Yeah.
a
Go up
third-party
here.
plugin.
Yeah. Well, the great thing about FabFilter plugins is that you don't have to do that as well. Like, you can right-click on the GUI of FabFilter, and you get the menus, and that blew my mind.
That actually I didn't know, but you know, using FL native plugins, it is a bit more simplistic. And it's just for filtering. You don't really need a fab filter EQ to do
It's
loads
a
of
little bit
filtering.
overkill at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for filtering, I just decide to use something easy like the parametric EQ inside of FL. Whilst for general and surgical EQing, I use FabFilter.
Nice. So yeah, just like here where we had this extra layer, this to go on top of the bass, I think, like, you know, these extra chord stabs are, you know, not playing the whole entire time, but play over these stabby parts. So you really, really, really wanted to accentuate this part of the track.
Yeah, I wanted it to, when it comes in, when that low pass came up and that reverby lead stopped, I pretty much wanted it to hit you right in the face, and it did just that.
Yeah, it really does.
It's
because
quite strong.
Like, yeah, this whole part before is kind of like a sort of break. You do it not only in the drums, where, like, you know, the hi-hats and all that kind of stuff kind of break away, and you just leave a lot more space for the lead to shine through. But then
Exactly.
it just goes right back into it, and then you get even more synths than you kind of expect, because you've upped the amp key on
I don't know if you've ever noticed something, but when you LFO something volume wise, it's always gonna be a bit quieter in the mix, just slightly. And when you add a few more layers, not only is it going to be fuller, but it's also going to compensate for that volume loss that you have whilst using LFOs.
Yeah,
without using pesky compressors.
Yeah, I would probably just boost the volume, but doing it this way, you not only get the volume back, but then you know, make it sound ever so slightly sonically, you know, get more sonic variation. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, so just like another layer on top to go on with the cool stabby. I like these ones. They're a lot more clicky, those ones.
They're also OTT'd, so the high end usually OTT accentuates the high ends generally. So
it's a huge difference to OTT. Like, so for people who don't know, like, this is with and then without. That's a pretty big difference. Like, this kind of sounds like it's coming out of a shoebox. And then this is like, wow, this is the real version. The producer version with OTT. The producer version. Slapped on. Okay, and now the ARPs. Here we go.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah. That's the first one. So what I notice, you don't hear it too much on this one because, like, the chords kind of overpower them, but then, like, in the breaks, so here, like, in that
Yeah.
break, and then when the chords aren't playing, you hear it come through a bit more. And
That's a bit of a mixing mishap where I wish the ARP in the final mix that I had would have stand out a bit more.
Oh,
but
okay.
at that point, I was like, this sounds good enough. I don't want to overdo the mix because I felt like I was starting to kind of screw it up. Like I don't want to overproducing is the worst thing you can do at times, because you may find something cool that you want to fix, but you may also ruin your mix overall, and you don't want that. So I basically didn't mess with that ARP up until when I decided, like, maybe the ARP could have been just a tiny bit louder, but it's fine either way.
I think it's fine. And yeah, it does that sort of, because it kind of ducks away, or it not really ducks away, but you don't hear it on top of the chords, that then during those breaks, those more quieter moments, that it just kind of leaves space for the ARP then to sort of come more to the forefront. So it's like it's dynamically changing its position in the mix in a way.
It's also a very, very simple ARP that I'm a sucker for. There's a lot of
What is it?
essentially what that is. It's a saw wave plugin. Probably has a few voices, an octave up, maybe. It is literally just one saw wave with. And if you notice, it's not plucking all the way down. It's just going halfway through. That's why I left the envelope like that. Because the length of the notes only go to halfway through that.
Halfway the point, and then it resets.
Exactly. Basically, I'm a sucker for that kind of sound because it's so simple and so shiny, but it stands out so well and it sounds pleasing, very pleasing.
I like the short
And then there's that, yeah.
These are just like, these are mirrored. So like you go and then back, and then back up, and then back down again. Yeah, that's nice.
I just wanted to add a bit more speed and intensity in there.
Yeah.
I also made those ARPs just a bit quieter, actually. For once, I made something quieter than the actual section in that section right there.
That's preposterous.
Preposterous, I say.
Preposterous.
But it gave it a bit more of a kind of like at first, like the way I envisioned that part was you're just kind of like when the drop starts, you're kind of just grooving and going with the flow, and when that part hits, it hits you with the face with a bunch of speed. And one of the factors that I added to kind of emphasize that was that ARP going way faster, and it kind of emphasized the fact that in that section you're going faster.
And of course, you also did that with the hi-hats as
well. And also the rapid hats did help.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna check out this extra harmonic thing. So we have a kind of a variation on the low pass. Yeah, so like the ARP also kind of gets a little bit high passed.
Yeah, it gets a bit high passed, and it also I reversed the order of the notes, so it feels unique.
It reverses. That's cool.
I
That's
feel
funny
like
how like this ARP also has that, like it's mirrored up and then mirrored down, and then like this the main ARP kind of gets the same treatment. It's like a overarching, reoccurring theme.
If you noticed, I don't know if I'm the only one that feels this, but when the ARP goes up, I feel like it's still flowy, like it's still slow and it still feels flowy and chill, but when the notes go up, it feels a bit more intense than when they go down. So that's kind of why I did that.
Ooh.
In that second part, it's chiller, it's more low pass, it feels more like a little flow where you're just chilling, kicking back, relaxing. And that ARP going down just makes it feel a lot less intense.
I have a crazy theory why that might be, and hear me out, because it's
go for it.
It's crazy, but so what you're doing here is like you're literally just making a E minor 7, and each of these each note ends on a D, which is like that's what is that? That's the 7th, so it's quite tense. It's like it's so close to getting back to E, which is the key, the root of this key that you're in. Whereas the arps going down, they start on that tense 7th note, and then they go and they finish each time. They finish on the actual like key of the track, the E. So that's like really resolving sounding. It's like na na na.
Yeah.
Like you could end right at the end. And that would, you could end right there, and then that so it sounds like a lot more like it's been resolved. Whereas, the other one is like
exactly that is.
And it says tense, and it's not ending. So yeah.
As a person who doesn't know a ton about music theory, I can totally still like back that up. That is a very good theory because hearing you do that as well, it does make a lot of sense. I never thought about it. It's just like I just went with the flow, and it worked.
Yeah.
But you saying that it does make a ton of sense.
Cool. Well, it's just a theory, but hey, it was a music theory. Oh. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Okay. So what metal lead? Let's do it. Oh yeah, so this is the fun one. This is the really fun squeaky lead and also it's like it's sort of on this LFO thing. So when I don't know why this is not working, these notes. I keep clicking them, but so yeah, it like as you hold it down, it just goes wah, wah, wah. So it's like playing multiple notes. And that's cool. You can see that's kind of where this motion, I suppose, is coming from. So yeah, we got these.
There are two reasons why I did that, actually. One of them was I wanted that slide,
yeah.
I wanted that to feel a bit like, I like the way that slides, and it feels quite pleasant. That was one of the reasons. The second reason was out of laziness. Sorry to say, that was just pure laziness. But it worked. It worked well.
I'm
there's
really
also, I don't know if
to hear what.
Go ahead
without,
and explore.
There. Oh, come on! Wow, this is without the comb filter. Wow, that's huge. I mean, yeah, of course, there's like compression and all that kind of stuff. This is like, so that the reverb really makes it. Oh, this is 100% the mix on the reverb.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so that makes it really like stand out a lot.
I wanted to have that, like, it's coming from the back of the room, so a lot of reverb creates a lot of room. So it's coming from very far away. That's pretty much.
I still can't get over, like, wow. So yeah, so much of this, like the tonality of this actual sound is coming from this.
It's based on the comb filter.
Yeah.
The resonances of the comb filter are what does that.
Wow, that's crazy. I wonder what it sounds like if you did like the minus. It sounds different.
I tried that. I tried that, and it sounds like squarier.
Yeah, it does sound a lot squarier. Wow.
Yeah, if you notice, the comp plus sounds a bit more saw wavy.
Yeah.
Whilst the comp minus sounds a lot more square wavy.
Whoa, it really does. This is mind-blowing stuff. Nice. I like that lead. Na na na. And then there's another thing layered on top of this lead. Okay, so this is kind of sort of an ambience kind of thing, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Pretty much. It gives it
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more for ambience, and it also, like, the placement of it creates a bit of a rhythm because it's not placed right on top of where the lead starts. It's placed kind of offset.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed, below the lead, there's also another sample that is being automated in phone.
This middle lead reverb.
That's pretty much even more reverb from that lead.
Ooh.
That builds up over time. I do that in a lot of songs. It basically fills up a lot of space. And it basically builds its intensity.
Oh, so I saw on your master you had an Edison. So is this like what you recorded? Like you recorded sort of like the reverb from your lead?
That one's another, yeah. That and I bounced stuff out from there. By then I didn't have FL20, so it didn't have that bouncing functionality that it now does. So that was that was the strings that you hear more across there. But yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, yeah, just so there, and yeah, you also you still hear the same melody. Like it's still actually playing the actual like sound. Cool, yeah, and then the lead. Nice. Okay, so before we get to the vocals just yet, there's like one more element for the second half of the song, and what I noticed is like once we go into the second half, you've low passed the chords. So these are low pass, these versions, and you know that's most likely I'm going to assume to be making space for these vocals.
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much. Not only space, but it also feels a lot chiller when you're low pass it. The way I did it, low passing it that way with a bit of resonance, there's a certain frequency in the spectrum that when you do like chords and other stuff, if you low pass it and have that frequency be a bit more resonance, that area of frequencies, it usually sounds super chill.
Oh.
And super vibey. I've noticed that with a lot of my tracks. And I did that, and I use that whenever I want to have a chill section. Every time I low pass and I have a sound in that general frequency, it feels a lot more chill.
Nice, and yeah. These nice little strings. You said these are from the plugin Orchestral, which you bounce out because, as you might want to recall for everybody else.
Yeah. So basically, Orchestral is a discontinued plugin from Edderol. Edderol does a lot of other stuff now, but they used to make a plugin called Orchestral. Basically, it's a sound font of several orchestral instruments, and it's really good. Those samples have a lot of quality. It's not like Omnisphere or some other plugins level of quality like Southwest or whatever the name is. It's cool, and it was free because you essentially had to torrent it because you couldn't get it in any legal means. You couldn't buy it. It was discontinued. So the only way to get it was to torrent. I got that plugin. But there's this functionality of the plugin that basically it doesn't save stuff in the memory. So every time you changed a preset in that plugin, you would have to create a preset file that's on that plugin's format. It's not even an FST or anything from FL.
Yeah.
It's like it's a performance file. So basically you load in the performance on that plugin. The thing is, when you close FL and you open it, usually Serum and all these other plugins, they save the presets once you open a project.
Yeah.
Etherall doesn't do that. So every time you open Etherall, the default preset is a flute on the first track, and instead of those violins, instead of the pluck chords, you would hear a flute playing. So basically, to solve that, I basically bounce everything out from Orchestral that I use. It makes it simpler, easier to work with. And if I want to change something, I just basically, redo I put the preset again in Orchestral, the instrument that I want to play, and I change the MIDI up. Simple as that.
And then, this is interesting.
Haha.
So yeah, this is just breasts cut up into a sort of like rhythm
It wasn't even Brett's cut up. It was actually me just doing that.
Oh, okay.
Recording myself doing that.
Oh, cool. Nice.
That wasn't Lone Moon. That was me before I even got the Lone Moon vocals, and I just recorded myself going and like that. It was super embarrassing to record that, but then I processed it. I reverbed it a lot, made it like rhythmically correct, and it worked as back percussion, even though you don't hear it a lot. But in the end as well, where I used that pitching down and
I
stuff.
see it again. Yeah, that's cool. It's cool. It's like it layers along with like the drums and the percussion stuff. Okay, now for vocals, because this is an important thing that I don't think is discussed too often. At least I've never really like covered it too often. But
I know that you like the vocalist a lot.
yeah, I do.
Lone Moon.
Lone Moon. Good job. Good job.
I can't find another reason. You can't tell me what the seasons do. I've been running for a reason to stay alive, stay alive.
So, what is your approach to mixing vocals?
Okay, so with those vocals, the way that Lone Moon sent them, they were kind of detuned. They weren't very well tuned. So I had to tune them. I used New Tone for that. It's basically like a baby Melodyne, if anyone knows what that is. Basically a tuning plugin. So I tuned them a bit. So there's a lot of steps that I do to process vocals usually. One of the plugins that I use to process vocals is not there because at the time I didn't feel the need for it. And I didn't have that plugin yet, which is the Space Trip. We'll get into that later in another project. But so the things that I use are basically OTT, which just a tiny bit, like usually I use like 20 to 40% OTT in vocals. It makes the high end of the vocal stand out. The purpose there is not really to compress, more to add some fullness in those frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Maximus, which essentially is, I think,
gate. Yeah, this
gating
is just a
the
gate.
vocals. Because the vocals that I got had a lot of noise, and noise reduction wasn't going to solve it, just noise reduction. So I had to gate them. Maximus is just gating. That's what it's doing.
Yeah, it's just
there's a fruity
tiny that just cuts off any low volume.
Exactly. Fruity limiter, that's basically compressing the vocals. That's how I did. Like now I use something else to compress, but at that time I used fruity limiter.
You just do like full OTT for compression now?
No. Jesus Christ. Okay. That NKQ verb.
This is a patcher thing.
Yes, that is a plugin my friend developed in Patcher. He developed a whole suite of plugins called NK Bundle. I don't know if you ever heard of a producer called Nasco.
Nasco.
He was the one. Nasco. N-A.
Yeah, I have actually ever heard of that name.
Okay, he's really good, and he developed this suite of plugins, and I was basically demoing them for him. And that's one of the plugins that I was demoing was the Q-Verb. In fact, a lot of the plugins that he has made, like there's a stereo expander and also a compressor that works a bit better than the actual compressor in FL, even though it uses compressors from FL in the patcher. Essentially, that's how I compress vocals now and other things. Cool. But yeah, I was testing it out. That's a really good spacious reverb, the Q-Verb plugin from him.
Nice.
And I still have it. It looks a bit different now because he changed the interface. But yeah, that's what I'm using for a reverb.
When you hover over it, like, wow, it's shying away from you. It's like, yeah. It's really cool. Then I have some delay. The new one, the fancy one.
Yeah, it's very quiet. It's not really slapback, but it's short. It's kind of a short decaying delay. It's also quite quiet. It just gives it a bit of like when the vocals stop, it just gives it it fills a bit more space. That's essentially what it does.
And there's Valhalla Room. I assume this is
Valhalla Room. That is for automations.
Yeah,
just very big room reverb that automates basically at the times where, like for example, in the end, that's where you notice it more. And in the drop as it's building up, I bring that reverb up. It fills it up a lot and basically makes it go to the back of the room. So in the build up before the drop, you kind of hear the vocals getting more spacious and more spacious right there.
Yeah, like here and here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it kind of washes out.
And then yeah, just some EQing,
Then some
which you
EQ.
can't see again. Thank
Oh
you.
no!
Oh no, your EQ
It's not activated.
Well, I activated.
It's basically
it
just
before.
it's just basically just an high pass and a
that's
few cuts here and there. Nothing too fancy.
Nah, it's just like little. Hey, does this ever happen to you? Like you close a plugin and then another one just pops up. Like, oh, okay. And then I close this one and then another one wow, okay. So I close this one.
Wow.
Yeah, this happens.
Sometimes it's very rare nowadays, but
That happens
sometimes
to
it
me often.
used to happen.
And I don't know why.
That sucks.
So yeah, let's take a listen to the vocals. Like, just I'm gonna turn off all the effects on the chain and be like,
I can't find another reason you.
oh, it's kind of cute. And
Cute.
I can't find another reason you. You can't tell me what the seasons do.
that's the studio vocals right there.
I can't find another reason you. You can't tell me what the seasons do. I've been running for a reason.
Yeah, and that really helps it like just stand on top of the track, and yeah, fit in.
Don't know if you noticed as well. There's another layer of vocals right there,
whoa,
which is the harmonies.
Yeah, boy!
Oh.
Oh hi, first time I managed to catch this live after being subbed for a couple of months. Enjoying this a lot. Less than 3, less than 3, less than 3.
Thank you, Fab.
Thank you.
Fab50. I hope you enjoyed being subbed for like a couple months. Thank you very much for your donation. Hey, so yeah.
I can't find another reason you can't tell me.
So yeah, this is a tactic for vocals where like you sing multiple versions, but then add a different melody line.
Exactly. It's basically harmonizing with yourself, except he didn't send me harmonies, so that is me singing on top of his vocals.
No way, this
and,
is your voice?
Yeah.
No
Except
way.
that is kind of lame. 'Cause, like the pitch was kind of bad. I had to tune it a lot because my voice wasn't well that day. But I still use it because it's just for harmony. That wasn't meant to stand out. That's just harmonizing
Yeah,
with
just
the
a
main.
backing, literally backing
Exactly.
vocal.
I don't try too hard when harmonizing. I just try hard when mainlining.
Oh, that's crazy. I didn't even notice it was you. But this is like a high register. But like if you had told me it was Lone Moon, I probably would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. Like I'm doubting my ability to like recognize stuff now.
Don't do that.
Oh,
Doubt
yeah,
is
so
never good.
so pads. What are these? Oh no, okay, no, the pads are above. So this is
That is a preset pad, a pre-recorded pad that I had somewhere, and I just basically used it. It's not even like perfectly in key, if you notice, but it works with all the layers going up.
yeah, it's just like it's just in there, it's just in the mix. Nice. And yeah, so this macro is probably raising the cutoff.
Yeah.
Smack.
Smack.
Thanks for the
I
smack.
agree.
Your French baguette. That's a pretty cool name. So I see you must have watched my my How to Dead Mouse tutorial about automating parameters and that kind of stuff.
Except it came out before. You know.
I know.
You know, I started that track a year ago.
Yeah.
Before you even came up with that video idea. But
Well,
yeah,
time works.
Sure
in it. Like
enough.
nobody really understands how time works. So it's
it's just a social construct anyway.
Yeah. Oh, and you're doing my favorite thing in the whole world, having these like detuned saw like Reese pad things, these low pass Reese's. Love them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then
I use that a
contralto.
lot. And
Yeah, it's class. It's just so good.
Get out my system.
And then we have more chords. We have these chill. Nice. Those are pretty chill. Why are these so chill?
Very simple.
What makes these chords so this is like a square just being low passed. Just a low pass.
And kind of plucked
Yeah.
to give it like it almost makes it organic. That little
Why is
pluck in the beginning makes it almost like it's an instrument in a way.
Yeah. Cool. That's very nice. That's very pretty to listen to. Yeah, and then the last finishing things are just these effects that are going on. The little ambience. So I'm assuming like this is just like a version of the vocals, but with them like tons and tons of reverb.
Yeah. Put through a bunch of reverb, basically drowned in reverb.
Yeah.
It's basically the same take, but it's from
Shimmer.
the same take, but it was quite Shimmer works super well for that kind of more
I'm gonna play
shiny
without
kind
the-
of reverb that you wanna
Yeah, and we have like chorus. That's what making it like kind of like watery the
Yeah.
chorus effect. And then wow.
Yeah.
This... Epic. And then the crashes and extra impacts, sounds. That gets me like each time. Clap, 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 clap.
clap, clap, clap.
So and everything's just building up. So like the plugs, so that's building up. You've added more elements into this part with the drums, the kick and snare, getting faster. Classic build-up material, This is interesting. So, are you actually like taking away the sidechain during the?
As the kicks are getting high passed as well.
Nice. Yeah, because
Because why have the sidechain if the kicks are getting high passed? You don't need that impact there. You just want the sound to kind of wash out, and that's the purpose of it.
That's
much.
a really cool, because I've noticed that like in parts where like because because the kicks are playing more frequently, that you're sidechaining more, so it ends up like your track being it has that like really bad like
like if you didn't take that sidechain away from there, if that automation clip wasn't there, just the sidechain would be insane there in that last part.
Yeah, you would like
Just
yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And like the whole track just goes and it's like it can't recover because you just like
even if the kicks weren't being high passed, it would still sound weird.
I've experienced that, and so this is a really like elegant solution, just like the mix level of your sidechain for this kind of, that is so cool. I never thought of doing something like that, but that's like a really like good way of a work, like a solution.
I am glad you found that one.
Risers and noise and yeah and then we everything. Okay, here's another thing, the sidechain. What's this all about, this sidechain volume?
Okay, so there's a few things about my mastering process. And there are sections, like for example in the build-up, where if things aren't very like mixed correctly and not automated in volume, the build-up sometimes tends to sound louder than the drop itself.
Yeah.
And so to give more impact to the drop, there are two ways you can fix that. Either make the drop down, like the build-up drop down in volume as it goes up, which I don't really do that in this one, but sometimes I do. In fact, recently I've been doing that a lot. Or you make the drop essentially louder in volume overall. So every element that's being sidechained is now turned up about 1.5 dB. 1.5 to 2 dB.
Yeah,
just
the whole
a
set.
bit of a slight volume increase.
Yeah, I see it. Ever so slightly just bounce up.
But it basically makes it so that the drop feels just more dynamically present.
Yeah, just like a bit of extra like volume to like hit the listener in the face. And so that's pretty cool. That's nice.
Yeah.
Someone said in the comments, where's the comment? I think it's "Get Out My Sister," because sound like "Get Out My System." LOL. That's an LOL moment right there.
Big lols. Damn it.
Yeah. So I like how you make it all seem really easy, but all of these elements, just work really well with each other, and I think that's it's a lot easier said and even demonstrated than done.
Yeah. The easy part is making those elements. The hard part is to essentially make them work together. That's your job as a producer. Make everything you do work together well. And it can be, the elements themselves can be simple or complex. In fact, most of the elements in my songs are rather simple, but making them work together is it's that magic little trick to make your stuff sound pretty much unique or good in a way.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe the last step is really just to check the mastering process out of this track. Oh, and we turn it on. So, you're doing the EQ thing where you cut super low for
everything below 20k or 25k. Sometimes there's not a lot of frequencies there. It gets kicked because you're gonna add
20k
harmonies. 20 hertz. Sorry.
Just kidding.
Just high pass everything under 20k. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not
sound
have
great.
a silent track?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. I hear that, getting rid of the, for frequencies that are so low, but still might affect a compressor. You're not going to hear them, but it can still, react weird. Then there's ever so slight harmonic excitement. Teeny, tiny. Eensy weensy. Multiband compression. Is there any particular thing you do for compression?
Nothing too. It's not too big of a deal. Basically, I just mess mostly with attacks. I don't mess much with the release. I don't go too in depth with compression actually, which I should start going a bit more in depth. But what I do basically works, and essentially, Jesus Christ, my notifications are blowing up and I'm trying to talk here.
Yeah.
Basically in the lower frequencies, I make the compression the low end at least, like the bass, that red band. I make the attack a lot tighter. I make the compression less prominent, much like in the high end, except in the high end the attack is very big. Also, in the mud band, like the yellow band, I call it the mud band because it's mostly muddy frequencies. I compress just a fair amount, And in the mid section, the green area, I compress. I turn the compressor up, the ratio up by quite a bit. That's the part I compress the most.
Okay.
Pretty much. If you ask me as for a reason as to why, I don't really.
Just what sounds
know.
good.
Yeah, it's just what sounds good, pretty much, and that's mostly what I've learned from a friend of mine to do mastering for these kinds of tunes this certain way, and it's not going to work for every single one of them, but it worked for this particular track, and that's kind of how I do it.
And then you're using the post EQ for
Yes.
so you're high passing some side frequencies.
Yes, because I high passed a lot on this song. Usually nowadays I high pass over 100 or 150. Over there I high passed a bunch.
Yeah, it's up to 200, like 250.
But it still worked.
Yes.
It still worked. I'm still happy with the result. And then those other little notches in the thing going down, basically cutting a few frequencies very sharply. It's basically some surgical EQing.
Yeah.
Those are two of the harshest frequencies overall in the song, especially in the drop, and I just make like a tiny little surgical cut. You don't have to, but it essentially makes your track a bit less harsh in those kinds of frequencies.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like a to taste kind of thing.
Exactly, pretty much.
And then basically the maximizer, what it's basically like, as I understand, it's just a limiter and gain, but then by pulling it down, you turn up the gain. Am I right in saying that, or is that not true? The maximizer.
Yes. Maximize, basically that's compressing, but the maximizer basically has an auto gain function, whereas it normalizes everything. If you compress it, it normalizes everything up to the margin, which in that case is minus 0.3, because you want a little bit of headroom when you export your stuff. Usually for WAV files is 0.3, and for MP3 0.5, or am I switching that around? Essentially, I just export either in minus 0.3, just the tiniest bit of headroom, so it kind of
you make sure that there's no weird intersample clipping.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much, and then a little bit of transient recovery. Sometimes I've messed with that, and like you can get like transients from snares and back, a little bit back, if you feel like they're being too taken away by the limiting compression algorithms. Yeah. So
pretty much. Yeah.
I think that's pretty much this track from head to toe. Whoa.
Oh.
Yes!
Oh, trippy.
Okay. Okay.
Big trip.
So, after this one, I think we're going to take a look at a drum and bass track that is
drum and bass track
out now on Spotify, but is also going to be out tomorrow on SoundCloud. And
exactly.
And it's drum and bass, and it's new.
By the way, if anyone has any questions, should we look at them in between, or?
Oh yeah, okay. Let's do one question, because that's a good like in between section, like do 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 do. It's the in between section with Dylan and Sekai. We're answering questions in this in between section. Let's pick a question. There were like almost 400 entries for this.
Christ! That is a lot of questiones.
Yes. Oh my. Wait, did I like even like write it correctly? Did I do this right?
Please tell me.
Oh no. That was an old one. Okay, that was the wrong one I clicked on. My bad.
Boy.
Okay, so
that
it's like over 100 entries, not 400. That was,
yeah. Still good.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. Here's a question from Sebe. Do you often
Sekai.
not finish your projects and have a giant folder of unfinished projects like me or Martin Garrix? Also, yeah, okay.
Or like every other producer. Most
No,
producers.
but like him and
have
Martin
a-
Garrix, okay?
Like him and Martin Garrix. Okay, I don't know about you. I don't really follow up a lot on Martin Garrix nowadays, but yes, I do have a bunch of unfinished projects in my folder. Some which might never see the light of day, sadly, but that's just the life of a producer. It's kind of what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I just saw in the chat there was a question. It said, "How did you get your track on NCS?"
I knew this question was going to come up. It was inevitable.
How
okay.
does I submit?
Okay. So the first thing I'm gonna plead to you: do not spam NCS artists about this. Okay? If they're your friends and they're willing to help you, they will help you. In fact, this is what happened to me, and I'm just gonna name drop. I had a big help from Sex Whales, which has showed my track somebody to Billy, the owner of NCS, and that's how essentially I got in. He liked my track, he signed it, and that's how I got in. Please, though, do not go on to any NCS artist and spam them to please help them get your tracks listened by NCS, because trust me, and I don't know if Dan's still here listening to this,
Hey,
but it's
Dan.
hard for but it's hard for us ourselves as NCS artists with contact with NCS. It's already hard for us to get in touch with them because they always have a bunch of DMs. They're always quite busy, and they a lot of times do not respond back to our messages. So please do not harass NCS artists, because a lot of the times they're not going to be able to help. It was just the fact that I was very lucky that Sex Wheels at the time was on a call with Billy,
Whoa.
and he managed to show one of his tracks, or else this would have never happened.
Whoa.
But yeah.
Also, in general, just spamming artists in general is like not a good idea.
Yeah,
Because
I said don't spam NCS artists, but artists in general, just don't spam them. Like,
Yeah.
if they are your friends and they are willing to help you, they will help you. Like, we're just people. We're here to help. We like helping other people if we're not, douchebags.
Yeah.
But if we're free and we're your friends and we're down to help, we're going to help. Like, that's cool. If you're cool, I'm going to be cool to you. Just spamming's not the right way to go.
No, it's really like it doesn't have any sort of relation. There's no like, oh, okay. But it's like it really comes over as like, oh, I'm just seeing you as an opportunity to like get my song on a big label, and not really approaching them as a person or as whoever. It just like comes across as you're using them as a stepping stone.
Exactly.
And now we are here at Rain.
Yes. Rain.
It's
Excited for this
drum
one.
and bass. And oh wow, there's actually rain in this project file. There's like
wow.
whoa. Okay, I need to.
Look in my eyes, you pull me closer, and I can't seem to let it rain, let it rain.
Ooh, wow.
You're alone, yet again. I can slowly feel your pain,
of you clicking on those macros.
Yes. For people who don't know, I was like clicking on tools and pressing MD, tools MD, tools MD to trigger smart disable, which it really does help give you like an extra like 5% of CPU. Spamming that, so it's funny how that works. Funny how that be. So yeah, let's go to the drums. Let's do it.
Yes.
I'm gonna actually... No, I will turn off
do
the actual playlist tracks so I can save some CPU when we're not doing any of this. Oh, watch bam 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 bam.
That I don't know. I just don't do that because, you know.
No, that's fine. It's just easy. It's just easy for me at this moment, just so I can like turn them off super quick.
When FL gets tracks inside of tracks, I'm gonna be so happy, honestly.
So, great drums.
Yes.
I do want to say that.
Thank
Like,
you.
wow, this is so drum and bass. What's the approach to drums in drum and bass? Because, you know,
Okay.
that is like half of it. You know, 50% of drum and bass is drums.
Okay. So the focus is always going to be on the drums. You want a really good break beat to put on the back. Like if you're doing liquid, usually if you can't do your own break beats, you're going to need some break samples that are good. That's going to be one of the main focuses. In
Like
fact,
the aim and break.
Yeah, exactly, like a name and break. In fact, I'm using kind of a name and break in the beginning, not in that part right there.
Okay.
That part is another kind of break. Right there, that one's a
Verse.
name and break.
Yeah, this is very aim-y. Yeah.
So basically, the way I do the way that I got those kinds of breaks is like from sample packs and other kinds of stuff. Some drum and bass sample packs do have some cool stuff. That one was given to me by my friend Spitfire, and I use it a lot. That one break is my favorite break. Yes. In fact, it sounds a lot like one of those liquid drum and bass breaks almost from Pendulum or something. Sounds quite similar to some of those, like the one from Sounds of Life by Pendulum.
Oh
if
wow,
anyone
yeah,
knows that
that's
song.
actually that's really accurate. Now that you say it.
Yeah. There's a few other things, like for example, the kick and snare that you use are also very important. Usually, in drum and bass, you want to keep the samples punchy enough that they pierce through the mix, but not too punchy like dubstep snares or dubstep kicks. You don't want them to be too boomy or too up in your face. You want them to be subtle. That's why the snares are quite short in tail, and that's why the kicks are also like a little tap, you know.
Oh yeah.
A tap that's enough to punch through, but not to ruin through your whole mix. Oh yeah, and I'm sidechaining the break slightly, so if you play the break, you might want to take off that sidechain.
Okay, so yeah, just the breaks then.
The kick and snare are there to give it a bit more extra punch, essentially. If you notice?
Yeah, it really does.
It's almost like if I could only use that break without the kick and snare. But they're there to give it a bit more punch and a bit of dynamic and rhythmic rhythm through with the drums.
Yeah.
So it's not all very even and shit dynamics, you know.
Nice hi-hats.
Yeah, that's the loop I got from a pack as well. Just a few rides and stuff.
Oh, and then we got this reverse crash thing. That's cool. Going into the next section.
I use reverse crashes a lot. Those crashes are mostly used for transition and impact.
Am I right in thinking? Yeah. So like, this is not the full symbol, but then only a section, like the more tail end, because you don't want your second crash to be as loud as
Exactly.
the first one.
And I want it to be like a smooth transition from
Yeah.
one to the other, like a little sweep.
Yeah, that's very nice. It's cool. There's like rain throughout the whole entire track, but it works, you know?
Yeah, it just gives it that little bit of ambience and
Yeah.
stuff.
That's nice. So let's get to those basses. So what are we at first? Are we at the sub? This is almost, yeah, this is like not the same sub from...
By the way, people who watch my stream are already telling me on Facebook, please say make sure to subscribe with Twitch Prime on Dylan's stream.
Make sure to subscribe with Twitch Prime
With Twitch Prime.
on Dylan's stream. Hey, he did it. No, on Sekai's stream. Who I'm thinking about joining really soon, like either tomorrow or Wednesday. But I think tomorrow. Why not tomorrow?
Oh, you come tomorrow? Because last time we talked, like yesterday,
Well, I
you
didn't
said
know. I was like,
Wednesday's-
I wasn't sure.
If you can tomorrow, totally down, man. Totally down to have you over tomorrow. Hell yeah.
Cool.
Let's
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah, I think tomorrow's
We
fine.
might work on a little collab thing we got going on.
Oh, okay. You don't want to say too much. You don't want to say too much.
Spoilers. No.
Yeah, but it could be a thing. Oh yeah, so yeah, the sub, and then we have lots of layers.
If you notice, that one sub is only one octave up instead of the other one that was FMing. That oscillator is only one octave up from the oscillator 1. Like if you go to oscillator 1, it's one octave down from the oscillator 2 sub.
Oh, this one's like the frequency. I think they're the same.
They're the same. Never mind. Yeah. So basically, that one's the same, whilst the other one was one octave up. That was what was happening. Never mind.
Okay.
So basically, if you FM a sine wave with another sine wave, it's gonna have this gritty texture, this harmonic. And if you FM a sine wave with another sine wave that's one octave up, it's gonna sound the harmonics are gonna be halved. So it's gonna almost sound like it's a square wavy kind of harmonic, whilst that one is more sol wavy.
Oh yeah, I do hear that difference.
And over there, I just felt like that one more gritty one sounded better in that sub.
Yeah, that's a cool way of changing the harmonics to the sub. That's really cool. And then so there's lots of bass layers. So which one do I want to start with? Okay, not that one. That's really high. But yeah, let's do this low res. So this sounds like it's been bandpassed. This particular res sound.
Yes.
This is just like a detuned.
It was more like low pass, but it was also high pass, so technically it is a band pass.
Low pass here, but then
it's being EQ'd with a high pass.
The EQ
It's in
that's
the
not going to
EQ,
show.
yeah.
You're not allowed to see this, but there's a
Not
high pass
allowed.
behind here.
Very private.
This is a secret high pass. Yeah, and that just layers on top of the sub, creating that, a lot different
gives
texture.
it a bit of...
Cool. And then there's this distorted res thing going on. Oh, this is very drum and bass. So, very detuned. And
So the reason why I added that was because a friend of mine was Spitfire was feedbacking this track, and he said, this track is lacking something in that bass region. It's lacking a lot of harmonics. It feels a bit too empty. It needs something more. So I basically added that, and I didn't think it was a good idea until I added it and mixed it in correctly. And even though it's very minimal and low volumed in the mix, it works quite well to like fill the lower frequencies in, giving it also a bit of grit to the drop that it kind of needed.
I like
That's
it.
the
It's
reason why
and
that's
it's
there.
very detuned. Like, so yeah, one of these sawtooths is like up 50 cents and the other one's down 45 cents. And
Yes.
yeah, you can hear for yourself that. And you know, when you detune stuff like that, you get that wong 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 wong, like that phase sort of cancellations, making it sort of have a vibrato.
The
no, a tremolo
distortion, the distortion also helps with that, and because if it didn't have distortion, you would notice the detune a lot more.
Okay.
That's usually what happens with Reese's.
Nice.
And so basically, you can hear the phasing a lot better.
Mm. And yeah, you also hear when it goes from one note to the other, then that like detuning gets a little bit slower. That like the speed of it.
Because the higher you go, obviously the phasing is going to be faster because the wavelengths are faster as well.
So you get that really sampled kind of effect in like an old school drum and bass where, you know, they'll sample like, you know, a recording of a Reese and then just play that on different notes, and so that would actually literally like get that.
If I was super obsessive with that, I could have legitimately recorded each Reese note with a different level of detune so that every phasing speed would be the same. But that would take a lot of work.
No.
That would take a lot of work. But I legitimately thought about doing that. But that would take a lot of work, a lot of unnecessary work. It wouldn't be worth it at all.
No, I don't think it'd be worth it. I don't think it would pay off. Like, wow, you got your phases aligned. I think,
especially because that's such a minimal element in the mix.
Yeah. No, and I like that it moves from note to note. It just gives it, you know, each note a unique character. So
that is also very true, yeah.
And then we have this classic, you know, this is so liquid drum and bass. This type of like sound.
Yes.
That whoa, whoa, that like sort of ghost lead. So ghostly. What's going on here?
Massive. So pretty much what's happening is you got basically 3 saw wave triangle kind of stuff, and what's happening there is they are being automated in volume, kind of, as you can see.
Oh yeah, they're getting a little
because I could have made them phase, but it was going to be quite difficult, especially in massive. Yeah. So you would I wanted those 3 oscillators to have 3 different pitches. The first one being like a midway pitch. The third one being the one that's the kind of like root bass note, and the second one I think is the one that harmonizes with the things, like with the sounds. So that's the one that you hear mostly going.
Yeah, that's like the real. And like the other one just kind of like fills in as the bass. But that's like that's the really the defining. And yeah, you know, you got a 7th going on. If we put that down an octave, we see it's a 7. So you know that's like the 5th on top of the note. That's happening there. That's really cool. Oh yeah, and it's like a bit of chorus and dimension expansion just to make the sound ever so like
wider.
Yeah, wider, bigger sounding.
Except it's not going to make much of a difference if you play it for me, because voice meter Discord doesn't play through stereo.
No, I'm wondering, like, yeah. So that's
it's only for stream. The stream will hear it. The stream
they will hear it, and they will love it. So yeah, and then all these together there was the breaks. Sick. Sick. This is so good. And then we get these sub-stabs. Nice. Tune, mate. Tune. And what's this? Oh, it's like a little pitch
I
bend.
I used the sub stabs to kind of
You
bend.
like you
the
went
sound.
down in notes to create that pitch bend. That's cute. That's cool. Nice.
I like my inspiration for the sub stabs was actually Ape Escape soundtracks because they were very breakbeatish. Like it's this one game for PS1 where you like catch monkeys with a net, and
Whoa.
it was like my child. Like it, no, it's way more amazing than it seems to be. But basically, Ape Escape had this kind of soundtrack where it was all very breakbeatish. And it also had these kind of sub stabs like 808s as the kind of low end. So I took that as inspiration.
Nice. Cool. And we got these bit crush bit sign. That's funny. Like so, yeah. The bass notes kind of like change the context of this chord.
Actually, over there, the low pass might be enabled, so you might not hear the whole thing of the chord. No, it's not there. It's below the track. It's actually below the track.
Where is
Below the track, as in directly below the track. You see the tracks that the chords are in? There are 2 other tracks that you have
Oh, you
muted.
mean like this?
Yeah.
I get. Yes. Yeah. I got it.
So if
There you go. Then now I can
'Cause
actually
it
hear
builds
the bit
up in the
crushing. Nice. And we've got a little piano lead, you know. Oh, very delay. Oh, it's beautiful. What we got
the
here?
delay also has a bit of a pitch bend, so it goes up and down in an oscillator. It's being modulated.
The reverb or the ping pong.
The reverb and the delay are kind of being modulated. So basically, it pitches up and down. Ever so slightly pitches up and down.
Cool. It's nice.
So it gives it that creepy vibe.
Yeah, there. Yeah, I hear that like at each note. Some extra chords in the second half. And the trumpets. With this also the Eddie roll.
Yeah.
Liquid
Now
AF.
those trumpets were those trumps. Fuck's sake, those trumpets were pretty much also orchestral, which was rendered out. And the way I did that kind of sweeping effect was just automating the volume up and making it sweep. And then by the 2 end notes, the 2 end chords, I just turned the volume abruptly up all the way.
Cool. So you kind of just made your own sort of staccato and swells.
Exactly.
Neat. Nice. And then we got, some vocally little thingies going on here. Oh, these are fun. Like a little squeak. Like a little like a little bark. It's a bork. Can we get a bork?
I like how yes. I like how everyone in chat's like great NCS showcase. Hey, you want NCS showcase? Stay tuned on NCS in August.
Oh,
And that's all I'm gonna say though.
Oh. Someone asked, "Oh, I didn't know NCS produced an FL Studio," so that was fun. This is cool. Here's a little. Oh, the real reverb. vocals. So we've got some vocals coming into the second half.
Yeah.
Oh, and there goes my CD. Just some ahs and oohs. Some ahs and oohs over the track.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So the vocalist on this track is my girlfriend, Alina Red. She's an amazing vocalist.
Yeah, it's great.
And this was like this track's the reason why we met. Actually, basically we were chatting in this one server, and she comes in, and basically I hit her up saying, "Hey, you should sing on this track for me." And she says yes, even though she didn't have a proper microphone. So I bought her an audio interface so she could buy a microphone, and the one thing led to another, I guess.
Oh, so this is like the origin story, this track, in a way.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's so cool. Whoa. Neat. Yeah, and I like how you're just using like chops out of the vocal to kind of give like sort of rhythmic percussion, melodic rhythmic percussion to this. No.
Yeah.
No. Super cool. Okay, and then we get another section with lots and lots of vocals. So this is just the main vocals, but then we also have backing vocals.
Let it rain, let it rain.
This is also doing a sort of harmonizing.
Yeah, and chorus. I usually put like chorus and harmonies, so they're more in the stereo field. More in the back.
Creating that stereo sort of width. Like very much like like the chords. Well. You had like the one layer, the mono layer, and then everything slightly more detuned and.
Exactly. Yeah. There's and then for that third one, I do something that I really love. Yeah.
Nice. I love vocoders.
Yeah. That one, the way I vocode mostly is with pitcher.
Oh, really?
It gives it a very raw vocoding, and then you can just process it the way you like. Like using flangus is my favorite. My favorite way of processing vocoder.
That's such a funny word,
pitcher.
flangus.
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 It's like flangus steak.
I'm never not gonna unhear that now. If I see an Angus steak, it's gonna be a flangus steak now.
Yeah.
And like you said, like the backing vocals and the vocoder stuff, that's like a lot quieter. It doesn't take it's backing, it's support for the main vocals to make them feel thicker, but not take away from them.
Yes.
Cool. Really nice. And and then we got like effects and stuff. Because you always need effects. You need the effects going on. The psh and the it's a good impact.
Smooth.
Look in my eyes, pull me closer, and I can't seem to breathe. Let it rain, let it rain. You're alone, you're again. I can slowly feel your pain, feel your pain. Let it rain, let it rain. Moonlight shining overnight, standing nowhere by my side. Darkness never hides, never
Oh boy.
hides. Let it
Big lag.
rain. Here tonight.
else in the track? Is there anything else you want to like cover?
Not too much, except there's a few things I do with the
Oh, so
track
an
that
arp.
I'm really like. Yeah, there's that. I also use a different little bookworm break for that little build up over there.
This.
It's a no, it's the one that even comes before that one actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's
You
what
might
the factory
heard
line
that.
is.
You might have heard that break beat in some other tracks, because there's a lot of, like, for example, future producers that use that kind of break.
Mhm.
And I just loved it for that one section, so I used it. There's also a section where I basically pitch down the piano 1 octave, and like in that second break, and it sounds really pleasant. Just to change it up.
Oh, nice. It's just so like so vast.
Exactly.
Let it ride, let it ride. You're alone yet again. I can slowly feel your pain, feel your pain. Let it ride, let it ride.
Dope. And then the mastering. The little nothing on the EQ, because that's not happening. That's not doing.
Yeah. The EQ was literally just for monitoring.
Yeah, just to get the graphical interface. So this
Exactly.
is Ozone 8, ever so slightly different from 5.
Yes. Finally decided to update.
Anything like really? I'm assuming it's kind of ish the
It's
same.
kind of just the same.
Yeah.
There's an exciter. There's
teeny
a
tiny exciter.
the dynamics for the compression. Same methods as before. Although I do have auto gain on
Yeah.
for the tracks. Kind of compensates a bit for volumes loss in compression.
I always find that's also like
Vintage
a good way
tape.
to hear.
Usually I put it before the dynamics, but it works that way. It's basically the same as the exciter, but it works in a more vintage way. Gives it a bit more harmonic presence.
And there's also single band.
It's all, yeah, exactly. It's also single band. Post EQ is exactly the same as before, except the side now I high pass it way less, as you can
not
see.
as much.
And then there's the maximizer, which is essentially the same. I still use IRC3, even though IRC4 is probably a better compression thing. Also in that, usually nowadays I have that thing, True Peak. I have it on. It prevents a few things from happening. Someone told me ages ago, but I don't remember. It doesn't affect any, like, it just, True Peak mostly affects like latency, so it's probably gonna be more delayed once you play the track with True Peak. But it does affect a few aspects, but it's more on the technical mastering side, which I haven't really studied fully, but I was taught by a few of my friends, and
supposed to do good stuff.
Yes, it is supposed to do good stuff. It mostly prevents clipping in the analog region, so it's mostly for the kind of like analog equipments in playthrough. Again, it's not something I'm too studied into. Like, I didn't study a lot of that, but that's pretty much what it does. Not essential, but still, you don't lose anything by having it on.
Yeah. Maybe it costs more CPU, but you put that into another project file anyways.
Exactly.
So
Put in another project file.
Yeah, I think we covered this one, and I really like it. It's a good tune. It's a vibe.
Thank you, my friend. By the way, the top track was just a reference from my friend, so disregard that. Like it was a mixed
Disregarded.
reference. Yeah. Just a mixed reference, see what I should do and what I should not do. Like, dude that made me that, Spitfire, is just a beast at editing tracks, so he just edited it the way it should sound, and I did it.
Whoa. Yeah. So you can like listen to this track, like right now on Spotify.
On Spotify.
This is the one that also comes out tomorrow on SoundCloud.
Tomorrow on Mr. SoundCloud, yes.
Ooh. Okay. And then I think we should let's do a round of questions whilst this next project file, the last project file, is opening of the stream.
Yes,
Sad.
because we still have quite a bit of time in it.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad that like we're coming to an end with the last project file, but we did learn lots, I think.
And for the people that followed me on Twitch, I appreciate you so much. Just be sure to check out tomorrow's stream where Dylan's going to be present.
Whoa! That's cool. Hey, here's a question from Jono. How do you go about figuring out what modes you want to use in any progression? I tried writing something the other day, thinking about borrowing chords, and kind of got stuck. Is it all trial and error? Oh, okay, yeah.
So the way I write chords, it all happens in my head. The progressions and everything, the way the chords are laid out, everything from melodies to the way it's supposed to sound to the flow of it, it all happens in my head, and then I just put it down on paper. It's kind of hard to answer that question if I don't have a lot of knowledge on how a track, on how a chords and stuff are composed. All I know is this is supposed to feel sad or inspirational or happy, or it has a certain feel. It makes me feel like I'm in a certain place or at a certain period of time. There's just a lot of factors that go into my head for writing chords, and it's not trial and error, but there's not a lot of knowledge in composition and writing chords. If I were you, and if you have a feel for listening to chords and feeling a certain way when you do, I would go with that feeling. Write a few chords, and if they go like on key, of course, and depending on the feel that they give you, whether they make you feel sad or happy or inspired, badass, all these feels, just write a track according to how the chord progression or the melody that you're writing makes you feel. That is my take on it.
Nice. To go more specific on the concept of using borrowed chords, as he has in his question. So like that's when you use a chord out of the actual scale you're in, but from a different,
I see.
From like a parallel scale mode, or it doesn't have to be parallel, but so for instance, like you're writing a song in A minor, but then you use a chord from A major, that would be a borrowed chord, or the other way around, a major chord and you use a chord from A minor. For me, doing that, I don't know like a way of doing it so that it always going to sound great. I think the concept using borrowed chords for me at this point is a like a trial and error thing, because I don't know what the chords is going to sound like before I actually like put it in the context of the progression. So for borrowed chords, that is, at least for me, a trial and error thing, but that's because I'm not like really knowing what I'm always doing with music theory. I just kind of like try it, and if I like it, then I like it. If I don't, then I change it.
Which makes sense, yeah.
Here we go. Here we go.
Oh boy.
I like the high.
Hi.
We're gonna get to that high. Did you make that high? Is that a...
No.
Oh.
That was one of my vocalists there.
Yeah, but it sounds like processed in a way.
I'll show you how.
I've never walked these roads. It's hard to say I want to be. Hi.
Nice.
Look in my eyes, they're full of fear. I will wipe away your snow-kissed tears. When I hit the ground, don't make a sound. The only limit is my doubts. We'll make it out. Right as we go, this path is scattered. Your heart will know everything is changing. Just take it slow. What if we fall? We'll get back up. And if we can't, we'll miss our love. What's really out there? Let me show you. What will you show me? Look into my eyes. How will you save me? See the bright sky. What will you show me?
I don't know why I keep laughing.
And then make them quickly, or pass it slow. It doesn't matter, there's no way to know. Because where we are is where we stand. No turning back, no changing that. Make them quickly, there's no way to know. Because where we are is where we stand.
I had to play that all the way through because I was just like
No problem.
so amazing. This one. So yeah, amazing track. Honestly, this like it's so good.
Thank you.
So yeah, the drums. There are lots of them. It's like the kick. Oh, it's the kick clap kick clap. It's rhythm. That's what this genre is. I just figured
Yes,
it out.
of course. It's rhythm.
See me. Oh, okay. There's too much. There's too many things. I'm just gonna I can mute these
'Kay.
because that's not gonna
One
be a
thing
problem
at
for
a
CPU.
time, Gromit.
We're going like full on kid style with a crash on every single kick drum. That
It was kind of inspired on Kid and Porter.
oh. Yeah, and this nice little chick thing. Very tambourine-esque. That's kind of
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it just creates a groove. Yeah. Oh, I need to do that thing again where I go attach, undetach. Thank you. There we go. So this is occasion where there is reverb on the kick. Can you explain yourself?
Well, so there's a few reasons why I did all these kinds of things where I saw some of them I don't even quite remember why I did them. I remember that kick needed a tiny bit of space, and it also, in that high end, you'll notice that the reverb on the kick does not affect the lows at all. It's being quite high passed in there.
Yeah, you got the low cut
So
going
it's gonna
on.
affect. It's going to affect mostly the body of the kick itself, the transient, that higher part, giving it more of a 80s feel, because 80s kicks and snares were quite reverbed, as you may know.
Yes.
So I wanted it to feel quite old and spacious. That's why I added that reverb. And as you can tell, like the wet knob, the wet slider is almost all the way down.
Teeny
It's
tiny.
very minimal.
Super low. Like you can't even see like any of the fader. That's like how low. So yeah, and
Exactly.
like when I play it with and without, it's just like it makes the kick sound like it's coming from an actual room, from a space, not like a
Exactly.
a cathedral or hall, but it makes it sound like less like it's an electronic sample and more like, oh, it's actually something in real life.
And it also gives it a bit of a tail, which makes it fuller.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the thing with reverb. Like nothing in real life doesn't actually have reverb, because there's always reverb bouncing off the walls of your living room or like wherever, even like in public, your reverb will bounce off the ground or from the walls of a building. Like the only place there isn't is like in those special dead rooms where like they have like pyramids, like foam pyramids, like
Foam,
throughout the hall and
there's gonna be a lot of them to treat that room that way.
So reverb is like a very natural sounding thing. So that's what's helping it sound less like it's just like comes straight out of a synth or something, and sounds more real life.
Hell yes.
Yeah. Oh, I like that little offbeat, that pump chant. To give it a little bit of a
bit of rhythm.
Yeah. Nice. And then we got this the sub, very stabby. Look at in the notes, you can see that. And this is also an FM sine wave sub.
Yeah, always.
That's like
it's a bit of
a cool way of making subs. The FM to get those extra harmonics. And then volley shaper for that LFO sort of thing that you done like you did on Canvas to get those attacky chords and bass.
Yep.
Cool. And it layers very nicely. Is there a little? Yeah, there's like a little.
Basically, what's going on? The lower region, well, it's not boosted, but there's a low pass in there. There's a few cuts, wide cuts, in those highs and mids, so they don't collide with the chords. And then in the lower section, exactly, just like that. See, you can see it now.
Yeah, you can see. Whoa, there it is. Yeah. Without it, like sounds like whoa, really bright and yeah.
Yeah, it's stubby as well.
Very cool. Then we got some chords going on. So okay, so there's a lot of chords and then chords layer. Let's just look at the chords and let's mute all this stuff. Okay, so these are some bounced out chords.
Yes. For my old PC, they were very CPU intensive, so I left them bounced out.
Okay, yeah, but they're also getting that volume shaper treatment of
Exactly.
yeah, everything kind of just moves in the same sort of like shape, so they layer like a lot easier together.
Yes, exactly.
And yeah, I was sort of like we can just look at these for the sort of chords that are going on. Oh yes, because I muted it, of course. That's why.
Dylan, you completely lagged out for me.
Really?
Christ. Yeah, I did not hear a thing you said or played in the last 5 seconds.
Oh, okay, that's weird. I was just saying, like, yeah, like these are the chords, because like you don't get to see the MIDI data anymore once you bounce it.
Oh no! Those are the chord layers. You can't hear them because you have the track muted.
Yeah. Whoa, that's gritty.
Adds a bit more body to the chord. It
That's
also
a
has a
very
bit of OTT.
Yes.
Usually I don't add OTT to chords, but if I want to add a little extra body to a chord, a bit more brightness and a bit more up in your face for the chords, I usually add one small layer or two with OTT and make it stabbier. They're also like more square than saw wavy because it makes them stand out. When you have saw waves layering with saw waves, they'll blend in. Whereas if you have a saw wave and a square wave playing together, they're both gonna kind of stand out on their own. That's kind of why I did it.
Sick progression. Yeah, I love how like the chords change second time round.
Yes.
And then the lead. Also doing the again that's that rhythm.
Yep.
Rhythmical theme. And there are a couple layers to this lead. So
yes.
That's interesting. Lead layering. Is this kind of similar to the chord stack layering, the theory behind this?
Pretty kind of in a way. Mostly the lead layering. Well, a few are to give it that kind of more dry and give it more of a body. Yes, much like that square lead. But some of those are to give it other characteristics like phasiness and wideness. Not so much like the chords, but they still have their purpose.
Yeah. Oh, I like what's going on here with the PWM, the pulse width modulation, making it like
exactly
like given that really like it's moving in sound and changing. Oh yeah, so I like because you're not like pressing the note over and over, it's not like re-triggering any envelopes, so you can like make the sound evolve over time whilst each new note, so to speak, it sounds different because it's actually like it keeps changing. So that's pretty cool. Sick. And this is chord choir reverb that's getting the LFO pump treatment. Whoa. That sounds like that's like
something
so
I
retro.
like. Yeah. That's something I like to do in a lot of my tracks. For example, in Canvas, you saw that in that lead where I export a reverb and modulate it up. In that track, you see it like that. There's a bunch of other tracks where I basically export the reverb of a certain sound, bass, or chord, and modulate it in volume. So it basically fills it up and makes it feel wider and more atmospheric and more dreamy, pretty much.
This is really nice. Such a great sound. What is the choir sound?
It's simple Nexus choir.
Whoa.
Gets the job done.
Sounds great. I like how, like, you know, you're missing like the highs. Like, it makes it sound like it's, I don't know, it just sounds like really like Nintendo 64 type like quality or something. Wow. It sounds awesome.
It's a really more mid-low oriented choir.
Yeah. Oh, that's really
and
cool.
it doesn't need that much highs because again the chords are taking care of that and every other thing.
Ask up the highs.
Pretty much.
And then this cool, so this is a going down arp. Oh, so that's the 8-bit type arp. Is this? So I know how you did this. Although I don't know how you did this in Serum because I know how to do it in Massive, but Serum's a bit trickier. So you're using an envelope on the octave. So
you
like
could also use an LFO if you want.
It
really depends on your taste, how you feeling today.
So yeah, that's how you get that 8-bit like Mario like firepower sound.
Pretty much,
imagine throwing the bloop bloop, the fireballs things. That's like literally like it goes up and it's a square wave that goes up an octave and then down just really quick. And then that
pretty much bloop, very rapidly.
Yeah. That's what creates that. Yeah, so if I muted it, it would just sound like a you know, it doesn't have the same sort of character. It's just pure square wave, and then this. There we go, instant Mario. Cool.
Yeah, boy.
Oh boy.
Amazing streaming. Winking face. Do you upload this streaming?
Do I upload? Yes. If you missed the stream, if you can't watch it all, this is archived. So if you missed it, this is going to be like on my channel forever and ever. And you can just rewatch it over and over and over again. Because there's like, we talked about tons of stuff. So yeah, that's it's all stored here forever.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's a good service, you know. I'm surprised YouTube don't charge for the amount of like bandwidth that you can use, because it is.
Shame Twitch just puts the streams down. I might start uploading my streams to YouTube, even though it takes a hell of a lot of effort.
Yeah. Or I have come across this thing where like you can like stream to Twitch and YouTube at the same time. Although I've never actually tried it, so I don't know.
But rip internet, innit?
Yeah, that's. Well, I think it might be the service. The service like splits the signal. It sends it to like Twitch and YouTube, but I don't know if that's true.
It does take more bandwidth to to do that though. Like, because you're streaming to two services. It's like basically if you're watching several videos at the same time, your internet's going to be slower. Just like if you're streaming several videos at the same time, your internet's also going to be slower.
Yeah. Okay, that does suck. Although, yeah. Yeah, so the ARPs are just like sort of backing a reel, like a backing element. They don't stand out or go on top of the chords. Yeah. It's just they
exactly
fill up the small little spaces. And then we got these little bells. What are the bells? Oh, music box type bells. What's this from? Is this like Contact Library?
No, I do not use Contact because it never really worked. It was, I think, Nexus again. It has some really good underrated sounds. People shit on Nexus, but it has some sounds that are cool.
Yeah.
Oh, also, no, but that one was also that one might have been orchestral actually. Might have had a Nexus layer, but that one was orchestral because it has this little Celeste thing. like a music box.
Okay.
There's also, by the end of that thing, there's that little sample below the bells that is pretty much the reverb going up of the bells.
Sick. Yeah, you're doing
Again,
the
automating reverb is always really cool.
nice. Yeah, it just kind of makes a nice little finish for the end of the Sick. Oh, it's adorable. It's so adorable. Oh, this bell. Oh, that's just cute. Okay. Yeah, that's actually like the layers of that track. Except for like, yeah, let's get into vocal stuff. So let's do the vocals, I think, for maybe like the verse.
The vocals. There's a lot going on, as you can see.
Yes. And so not only that, but you had the task of doing like duet vocals. So you got like boy and girl vocals. Is that like, did you find that mixing it was really different? Because it's different like registers.
Kinda. Yes, because you had to make those voices. Yeah, exactly. You had to make those voices stand out, kinda in the same range, and they would have to also fit with each other. So
Yes.
not only would you have to make them dynamically sound like they can't really sound too different from each other, or else they won't really belong together. But they'll also have to belong together in the way that if they play at the same time, they're also gonna have to, not clash.
Mm-hmm.
So it's finding a balance between those two little things and going with it. And it was really hard, but I pulled through, I guess.
I think you did, yeah. Yeah. It's a really cool
There's
like
also
undertaking.
a few storytelling advice that I got from my friend Diamond Eyes. He basically told me to, in a few parts of the song, pan the vocals of her and him to the left and the right. So when you're hearing the tune, the vocals from BN, the male vocalist, pan to the left at one point, and the vocals from Sarah Slyleaf pan to the right. And it's like you're having a dialogue here and there, colliding question and answer. And then at one point, they both go to the center, and her vocals start becoming ethereal with a bunch of reverb going on. Shimmer. It's just a bit of storytelling advice from Diamond Eyes. You might want to get creative with your vocals if you're trying to tell a story.
Nice. That's cool. Like telling a story through mixing. That's pretty cool. That's a cool concept. Whoa. Oh yeah, okay, so yeah, just build up. So we got chords. Little arps starting to build up as well.
Ooh.
What's this bass choir?
It's basically a lower register of the choir.
Yeah, I think I missed a few out. Oh, that's nice. Of course, I'm muting these vocals, so that's why you can't hear. So yeah, let's go back. Oh yeah, so there was the introduction little vocal.
Hi.
Oh, it's so cute.
So
are you using
much
the ring? Yeah.
Ring mod.
On effect.
Hi.
So when I turn that off.
Hi.
Aww.
But it still sounds like it's a bit robotic.
Is that
That's
the
because
delay
of the
too?
delay. It's very, very short delay.
Yes.
Yeah, at the time I didn't have
Hi.
delay 3.
Hi.
Oh.
Hi.
Wow. It's like totally just
Hi.
turned her into like Robo Girl. So
Yeah, because that's the story that I kind of wanted to tell in the beginning. I wanted to make a because, in the beginning, I didn't have any money. I didn't, and I still kind of don't, but I wanted to make this whole video or this whole little series where there's this little robot girl with sentience, and this boy in this case BN, stumbles across that sentient robot, and I wanted to tell a story based on that. I wanted to make this a big project, but funding and time did not allow for that, sadly.
Oh, well, you still made it like a big track and a big song, in my opinion. But that's really cool how like there's a whole like narrative sort of, you know, like a story to this. Sick. It's almost like you could like make a comic for this song, like animation, music, sort of. I mean, that's huge undertaking. It's like no, it's like oh yeah, just do that. Just do a just make a music video, animated music video. But
yeah,
but there is
I
like
would
the
have
thought for
loved to
that,
do that,
has
but-
been like laid down essentially.
Yeah, exactly. At one point, I would love to do that. but
Yeah,
yeah, we'll see in the future.
I hope so. I hope you get to do that.
Maybe I'll get partners to help me do that.
Oh yeah, and there's like a cinematic. So does that
Exactly.
is that there for a reason?
Kinda. Not to set the mood. It was kind of a little. First off, a little robotic sound. So like the cinema reel does not only sound like there's a movie about to start, like a story about to
Yeah.
be told, but also it's this kind of machinery sound,
Mhm.
almost like when that boy found the robot, she was just working, you know.
Yeah, so like machine and cogs like turning around, that kind of sound.
In a way, yes, but the main purpose was to give way to like let you know that this is a story, this is a narrative about to happen, and you're gonna be immersed in it.
Sick. Still can't get over those bells.
The little bells.
I've never walked these roads. It's hard to see the path unfold.
I think I'll fall apart. I'm scared to make my start.
The shadow that was left behind leads me away from where I want to be. Hi.
Okay, yeah. So we've gone through a lot of different takes here, and okay. So where is it? Oh, so that's this is later in the track. The panning. That's when the panning concept comes in.
Oh boy.
Sekai beautiful track. Reminds me of Porter's Shelter in a way.
It was kind of inspired on it. Thank you.
Except better. It's better
Aw,
than
don't
Shelter. I will
say
go
that.
like on the record and say that because
Jesus Christ, not better mixed than that. Like technically, it isn't.
I think like
it
in
isn't
terms of
better at
like
all.
melody and like catchiness and like melody line, top line.
I don't know.
Plus,
Like that's
This is
subjective.
two
I don't want
vocals.
to.
Melody just has Shelter just has one. So you're already like more ambitious.
It was very ambitious of me, except like also Porter and Madion were also quite ambitious, but they had the money to go up to an anime studio and just
Yeah.
work with them. I
Yeah.
don't. I don't even have the money to fly to Japan.
Oh, Japan's really expensive though, so that's.
I don't have the money to fly almost anywhere, to be honest. Like if I wanted to meet you, like I'd fly over, but I'd stay there because I don't have money to go back.
Yeah. Well, you can like try jumping, and you'll be able to fly for like just a short amount of time, in case you just want to
Yes,
get like a
that is
feel for
true.
it.
If I want, I could also jump off the plane, and it'll allow me to fly for farther and also for longer periods of time. Except it may not end well.
Well, at least you get your money's like more value for your money that way.
You do have to pay a lot for suicide nowadays.
I've never
Let's
walked
stop.
these roads. It's hard to see the path unfold.
I think I'll fall apart. I'm scared to make my
So yeah, those like each have their own like mix
I've never
bus for like the individual vocals, but then also like a group bus. Is there anything really we should know about?
Usually, Group buses, I use them mostly for group processing. For example, imagine if I wanted to, like, for example, I didn't add much in there. I added a glue compression and a few other things. But imagine I wanted to kind of process them further in a group. For example, that's what I do in the melody and bass buses and SFX buses. I just put them in a bus and then send the bus to sidechain. So I group them all together and send them that way. But it also serves for, like, if you want to glue compress several buses and do other sorts of processing. That's and organization, essentially. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and then you got like the harmonies also get processed ever so. Like, do they really like differ a lot? You think the main like process from the harmony synths, or it's just so like they don't like go through the same compressor and compress a little bit differently?
Yeah, there's that. There's also, several different processing. There's several different process things that I do. For example, different amounts of compression. There's different amounts of there's different amounts of several other effects. Like, for example, the harmony vocals are usually way more reverbed and also have this chorus effect in some of them. They're just processed way differently. The EQing is almost the same, but everything else is kind of different. Yeah.
I see a track here that says Sekai choir. Is there a Sekai choir in here that we haven't found just yet? You think I wouldn't find it?
I think I. There you go.
You can hold a note. I will give you that. It's pretty good.
So yeah, the Sekai choir is just there for harmonies. I do that in a lot of those tracks. I do that in a lot of drum and bass tracks as well when they need choirs and stuff. I like to do that a lot. Just basically record my voice in a choir. Because I wanted the male vocalist, I didn't want it to be me. I wanted it to be someone else. And I wanted the female vocalist. Well, I also wanted someone else, but the choir that I had was already mine. Vocalist. Obviously. I don't think I have the voice for a female. I don't know. That's just me though. But yeah, I added that track before I got the vocals, because essentially I finished the whole track without having any vocals on it, and then presented it to them, and they hopped in, and it was really cool. But yeah, that track was already there. I felt like it lacked something, and that just filled it up beautifully.
I want to hear it in context. Oh yeah, so this is the panning part you were talking about. The story.
Look in my eyes,
They're full of fear. I will wipe away your snow-kissed. We'll make it out.
right as we go, this path is scattered.
Your heart will know everything is changing. Just take it slow.
What if we fall?
We'll get back up.
And if we can't,
We'll fix our lives.
what's really out there?
Let me show you.
Ethereal.
What will you show me?
Look into my eyes.
How will you save me?
See the bright sky.
What will you show
I don't know why I keep laughing.
And then make them quickly, or then pass it slow.
So let's get to something that we've kind of briefly like mentioned in passing, like, oh yeah, effects. But I think these are like a little bit more well, like there's crowd noises here, and
Yes.
which is a
Helps fill up the frequency spectrum. That's essentially what it does.
Yeah.
All it does.
so it's
for
like
filling
just an
up.
alternative white noise.
Yes, exactly. Gives it a different characteristic. But there's also white noise to fill up the higher end of the spectrum.
Is this like an EQ'd white noise? It must be, right?
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. It's high passed.
Yeah. Cool. Let's. Oh, and then like in the second half, did you find it tricky to like get the vocals to sit on top of the mix, because it is
Yes.
quite a full.
Very, very tricky. It is a very full mixed, very full mix, and I had a lot of trouble balancing everything.
Mhm.
I had to make those vocals quite loud. I had to EQ them a lot with the drop. It was a nightmare. Especially because the second drop, especially because of the second drop, has more elements in the beginning. I don't know if you noticed.
I didn't. So.
There's a few elements,
so the
like for
arp.
example, the arp.
Oh, that's a big arp. Oh, and it's called
Exactly.
big arp. So it doesn't, lie about its name. It's a big arp.
It just makes it more.
And then make them quickly.
Yeah, that's really rapid.
Makes it more fast-paced, more intense. Gives it a better climax for that drop.
Awesome.
And because it has more elements and everything just feels louder because of that arp, it's just going to be way harder to mix those vocals, especially because the takes there now harmonize instead of BN's vocals. Like BN's vocals in the first drop were 1 octave below Slyleaf's. In that one, he's harmonizing with her, so they're more in a similar range, which made it even harder for me to mix them. But it was worth it in the end.
Yeah, that sounds like not an easy undertaking at all. But it does, they do,
Quickly, or it passes slow.
really does sit on top of the mix. But then again, you do kind of see there is a big volume difference that does help.
Yes.
Be on top. So. The violin. Nice violin.
It's actually two violins layered on top of each other.
Look in my eyes.
One's a smoother note. One's a smoother note, like a smoother violin, and the other one's very vibrato.
Okay, I get it. Whoa. Again, automating the reverb, like bounced out reverb.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice. That's the bass choir, the low version of the choir, and the.
Exactly.
This is a pretty cool arp, and also probably is it done in similar fashion to the yeah, it's got
in a similar.
The plucky square
But it's
wave.
but it is fuller. It's not as high pass. It's way fuller in the range.
Yeah, this is a lot. Yeah, definitely exactly what you said. More full bodied and up
Yes.
front in the mix. Very cool. Hey, this is nice.
Oh, someone in the. Oh yeah, those
This is
little
nice.
plucks. I got that from a sample pack, like a little. Super pleasant.
Oh, this is beautiful.
You're actually inspiring me right now, so I'm.
That's like a sleepy bedtime, Aw. Yeah. Hey, that could be a little thing, that we incorporate.
Someone in the chat, I think it was in Follow, said, "Wait, what about that fill right before the second drop?"
So
the funny one.
there's a is there a little backstory? Is this just a little outtake of the vocal part?
Uh huh.
Just the
I don't know why
pretty much what happened there. You know the high before the first drop, the BN's high, the one that goes hi. Pretty much he was recording me a bunch of highs. He sent me a bunch of takes, and he was laughing with it. I don't know if it was his roommate or his girlfriend in the background, and he was like, I don't know why I keep laughing. And she was just in the background shouting. It was beautiful. If you zoom in the whole recording and take off the reverb, you might be able to hear everything. Yeah.
Oh, there's like a lot. This is the part that you don't hear. This is the whole backstory. This is like crazy. Before outtakes. So like these.
Hello, this is my Disney submission for Sekai. I'm doing some voice acting, so here we go. Hi. Hi.
I don't know why I keep laughing. I don't.
A lot of highs.
Yeah.
Hi. Oh, this is so awkward.
I don't know why I keep laughing.
And then make them quickly, or pass it slow.
I want to hear what that loud thing. What's the loud thing? What's the?
I know, but I'm so awkward.
Aww.
There's a few other things in the end as well, I think.
Oh yeah, it does. It does go even more.
Okay. Please, boss. I have cancer.
I don't know why he said that in the end, but sure.
You like your response to it as well. Like, well, don't know why I did that.
I don't know why I keep laughing.
And then make them quickly, or pass it slow. It doesn't matter, there's no way to know. Because where we are
This is a really good, like, wow, she goes crazy on the vocal and the...
doesn't matter, there's no way to know.
Woo! That goes high.
Yeah.
So that's really cool to like, yeah, differentiate from the second drop. Like the vocal performance just being that much more accentuated. Damn, there's just like a lot of vocal stems here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that went into that track.
And I'm assuming like some of this stuff is also like already bounced down. So when you got the vocals, were they already comped or?
No, I processed them from scratch. They were slightly tuned, but not too much. I had to tune them again.
Yeah.
The rest of the processing was basically done by myself. Yeah.
And then bounce down again to audio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. For people,
there's a few takes there that needed to be louder, for example, and I bounced them out just to make them louder.
So like for people who don't know, with like vocals, like usually you don't just press record and be like, all right, that's it, that's the day, and you do like the whole song in one go. Usually like you're recording. Well, I mean, you can record like bits at a time, like a verse or half a verse at a time, but then you can also comp them where I don't know if that's even like the whole phrase but like you select the parts of the takes that you like the best.
Yes.
And yeah, so you take like a couple words, but then you take maybe the next couple of words from a different take and the next couple of words from a different take. And yeah. Oh, do you ever do a doubling with your vocals?
How so?
Well, not harmonizing where you're kind of like, you know, singing a different melody line, but doing the same take, same vocal line, same melody, but then you have to like get the timing right.
In fact, I triple them. I do a thing sometimes in my vocals where I sing 3 takes. In fact, sometimes 4. but if I'm lazy, 3, where I basically put 1 in the center, 2, 1 in the left and right, and then if I'm feeling frisky, I might reuse one of those takes and put it 1 octave up in center, or I might just re-sing one other take 1 octave up.
Whoa.
And yes, my voice goes that high.
Whoa! You could do like, you know, a Mickey Mouse impression. Yes.
It's like
You're gonna be in the new Kingdom Hearts game.
I'm gonna be voice actor for Mickey. Yes.
Yeah, it's not bad. Or maybe just kids' parties. You know, if you wear the suit.
if I'm desperate, yes.
How about timing? Like, because I've found that's like one of the biggest challenges is when you are doubling, like getting the timing. Are you just really that good at like singing with precise timing each time? Because maybe you are.
Not always. Not always. It takes me a few takes. It's just all about like getting it right. If you can't, try again. And sometimes it takes me 1, 2 takes. Sometimes it takes me 5, 6. It depends really on how hard the actual take is, on how hard it is to sing, how long the notes are, and how high I have to go.
Yeah.
Everything is a factor and makes it either easier or harder.
Cool. Yeah. This is oh yeah, and then, you know, last thing, the master. This is an older project, so, you know, we haven't gone to 8 yet, but I'm assuming little cut. I'm gonna guess each one. So little tiny cut. The harmonic decider.
Yes.
Teeny tiny harmonic decider. The dynamics. Okay, maybe like around like a 7-to-1 ratio, or about at like minus 16 decibels. Ooh,
Pretty much.
Oh yeah. Okay, kind of close. This one's 7.
Yeah, pretty much all very similar. Yeah.
And then this post EQ is gonna have like a side pass, a high pass on the side channel, on the sides, yes, and certain frequencies you didn't like. Do you think different for each track, or do you like you just it's just those frequencies in general you don't like?
Sometimes it's usually the harshest frequencies in a track are like 8 to 9K and 3 to 4K. But sometimes in different tracks, you have frequencies here and there that are way harsher and need tending to. So, yeah, as you can tell, those are not really in the 3 or 4K. Some are in the 8 to 9K. One of those bands are in 8 to 9K. But there's no band in 3 to 4K, and that's because it didn't annoy me as much.
Yeah.
But general rule is 3 to 4K, I think around 3K, 3.5K, and 8K are the spots that really are harsh frequency-wise.
Do you ever find... I was yawning, sorry. Do you ever find yourself EQing to the Fletcher Munchin chord?
Excuse me?
Not the chord, the Fletcher Muncher curve, where it's like it's an EQ curve that is made for the human hearing, and like certain frequencies we perceive louder than others, even when they're at the same volume. I'm not sure if that's something you ever like took into account.
I never took that might be a certain thing about those frequencies that I EQ out, but I never really got into it. In fact, the only reason why I know those frequencies are the most annoying is one of those frequencies, the 3K and the 8K, are one of those is the highest frequency of when you hear a baby cry. A baby crying and screaming, basically, which is very annoying, and that's like a mechanism to basically wake you up if you're a parent and you have to tend to your baby. Pretty much those frequencies are going to be harsher for you because they have to grab your attention. So yes, those frequencies are harsher for the human ear, and that's why they are usually more EQ'd out surgically.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And then the last little thing, the Maximus. I mean, maximizer.
Yeah, Maximus.
There's a Maximus in Ozone now. Wow, that's crazy.
Wow, a plugin inside of a plugin.
What? Yeah, and yeah, just turning threshold down to make it loud. Do you ever like aim for a certain RMS level with your tracks?
Depends. I don't measure in RMS anymore.
Do you
Usually,
do LUFS?
Yes.
Yeah.
LUFS. I usually aim for between 4 and 6, depending on how loud the track has to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go under 6, depending if the track's like more chilled down and doesn't need to be that loud.
No.
The reason why I do LUFS is because it's basically the same as RMS, but it's high passed, so it doesn't tend for those. It doesn't tend as much for those sub frequencies. And imagine and the sub is a very specific frequency that is there. So if the sub's way louder, but your track in the higher ends of the spectrum isn't, is it really gonna be perceived as loud? It has to be mixed properly and with balance, because you may have a very high RMS because of that loud pumping sub, but the higher frequencies, if the sub's not mixed correctly, they might either be too loud or they might be too low in volume, and it's not going to be perceived as loud. So yeah, LUFS is always a better a better measure to monitor with.
Cool. I think that's the whole that's it.
The whole thingamabobber?
That's the whole thingamabobber right there.
Oh wow.
And wow. Whoa.
Hi.
We should answer a couple more questions before we wrap up the stream.
I was thinking that.
Yeah, just like a couple more questions just to finish us off. Again, this EP just came out on Spotify. You can listen to it right now. Like all the songs, because we only covered 2 of the tracks from the EP. There are actually 2 more tracks. Yeah, you haven't even heard yet, and you should right this second. Do it right now. Go on to Spotify.
Yeah. You should definitely check out my Twitch if you haven't, and follow,
do that
because
as
well. tomorrow Mr. Dylan might be over.
Oh.
And it's gonna be exciting.
Yes.
Gonna be feedbacking, and we're gonna be working on a special little thing.
Oh,
it's basically our baby. Me and Dylan are pregnant with a baby, and it's gonna come out that stream. That is how it works. Yes, procreation.
Yes. That works. And that's why it's gonna take like nine months to give
to finish.
Yeah. Hey, Fire, HHD Wuss or Fire. He's actually a really good producer. He makes some pretty cool stuff.
Yes.
He said,
I heard of Fire.
Yeah, he's good. He said, "Hello, am I cool?"
Yes, you are. I heard of you, so you must be cool. No, I'm joking. No, I heard of the stuff that you make. I think I heard a few things of yours, so I'd say you're.
He's gotten featured on Clip a couple times.
Clip.
Clip.it. Yeah, so he's about to headline EDC with that kind of recognition. Yeah, I would say he's cool. I would give him a Fire. He's a cool.
You'd give him fire. Yes.
Yeah. Oh wait, where is it? Where is it? Oh, it's not working on
Oh,
the keyboard.
no. Oh no.
No. Oh no. What is going?
Rip.
It's just broken. It's my stream. It's broken. I wanted to put the fire emoji on the live stream, but
Yeah. Yeah, I
for
got
fire,
you.
but it didn't work. So I guess that's an epic fail. Wow. That's an epic fail. Okay, let's pick another question. How about
Let's
two
do
more
it.
questions? Two more. How do I get my music noticed?
How do you get your luck and hard work? Basically, like if you have good, especially like you gotta have good ideas. You might have amazing execution, but no one is really going to care for your clean mix down, for your super duper clean mix down starting up if your ideas aren't good. That's step one. Step two is to, well, this is gonna sound like it's out of your control, but it kind of is in a few ways. You gotta get yourself heard, and sometimes you gotta be at the right place at the right time. For example, with NCS, I was lucky my friend was on call, or else I wouldn't have gotten onto NCS. They wouldn't have noticed me. There's a lot of factors that contribute to that, but as long as you do a good job with your music, you're bound to get noticed by bigger people. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, I thought you gave like that's a really real answer. Like that was like probably one of the realest answers, where like luck playing a big part of it, and
realist guys in the room, man. But yeah, it just kind of is. At least that was my experience with it. Some people can bargain and do business their way to the top, but I can't. I'm not really a businessman. In fact, all the business I know is because of signing contracts and doing other stuff in the music industry. That's all the business I've learned. If you want to grow and you are not, you don't have this certain skill set where you can start a business and work your way to the top like that, you are going to have a bit of luck. That's just how the world works. Sadly, because some people aren't lucky and they're very talented and just stay in the underground.
Next question, Francis Taylor wanted to ask, when will Sekai plug his stream and get people to sub with Twitch Prime?
Oh yes. Did you guys ever hear about something called Twitch Prime?
No, I didn't. What is that?
Oh, with Twitch? Are you really gonna make me do this?
Okay, no.
With Twitch, yeah, with Twitch Prime, you can subscribe for free.
But yeah, you should do that. You should do that. If you haven't, go do it.
Or just a follow. I would appreciate having you over.
If you do a follow though, you have to do like get the notifications, the email notifications, because that's actually like useful. Because then you know when they're streaming, or else, a follow doesn't actually help you unless you're on Twitch all like 24, like a lot. But I'm not. I'm like I just want the email notifications. So
I'm like very. I stream like 3 times a week. I'm trying to get that partnership, So,
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so Sekai does
the only thing I need, is more viewership. Really, like 75 concurrent viewers, I think, on average, to get partnership. That's how it works on Twitch.
Oh wow. Okay.
After that,
Then the sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. Yes.
I got a duplicate. Like we already did that.
Oh,
question. Hey, why do you use FL Studio? And
why do I use FL Studio? And go ahead.
Oh, and I know what I'm trying to kind of decipher what it is, because I don't think it's related. And what would you use otherwise? But That's kind of like,
Oh yeah, okay, I get you. If I didn't use FL Studio, if I couldn't use FL Studio, what I would... Okay, first off, reason why I use FL Studio, I like the workflow, and even though I organize like I would in Ableton, I feel way more free. I got way too used to FL Studio. I just like the functionalities and the shortcuts way better. To me, it just feels... I just work faster on FL. I like the way the piano roll is like a deal breaker for me because FL's piano roll is just a million times better than any other piano roll out there. And
Yeah, I
I am
agree.
I like to use the piano roll a lot. Like, I'm very focused on melody. So if I can't be too quick writing melodies, I'm just going to get super frustrated. Well, and I already answered, if I had to use another DAW, it would be Ableton, because again, Ableton's amazing and it has amazing features, but I just can't work as fast on Ableton as in FL. That's really the reason, quickness. And I need to pump those tracks out and you know, as fast as I can, even though I give them meaning, I do have to make them quick.
This was from Thomas, who said, I also spoke to you on Panda Eyes last stream.
Yes, I remember. I was there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get Panda Eyes on my stream.
Ooh.
Yeah, he said he'd be down, but schedules and stuff. We gotta work something out.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That'd be cool.
That's really exciting.
Been working on a remix for him on stream. In fact, like tomorrow, I'm gonna have you over, so I'm gonna start working on yours. But on the next stream, Wednesday, I will definitely showcase it again for the people who are curious.
Yeah, sick. Okay, I think last question. How long did it take for you to start putting out music publicly that you were super proud of? How good did it feel?
Oh, okay. So first song that I was quite proud of was the first song on my SoundCloud that is public. Everything else before that, I privated and deleted, pretty much because the quality isn't up to par. In fact, the first song in my SoundCloud right now is from 1 year ago, 1.5 years ago, called Venting. That track, I'm not very proud of it right now, and it became a huge meme where I'm super pissed about it because everyone keeps memeing it for 1 to 2 years straight. And it doesn't stop. But I was still proud of that track at the time. If I have to say one track that I am still to this day very proud of, besides Somebody, because again, that was a huge achievement for me, must be Need You. That was when I kind of rebranded in a way. It gave myself more of a serious, more consistent branding with my music. And it was one of my most unique tracks, and I still love the way it sounds. I'm still very proud of that.
Nice.
So it took me about 1 year, 1.5 years to start releasing tracks that I'm very proud of.
Well, like a 1.5 years into production.
Yes,
Ooh.
into production as Sekai. Because I produced under a different alias with someone else, and I was abysmal. I was never really solo. Sekai was pretty much a fresh start, by the way. Like, I didn't have any backing, any following before. When I started Sekai, I started from zero, and I was very lucky and very blessed to be able to grow the way I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been producing for 6 years, and only the last 2 as Sekai have been the most fruitful and invigorating in my career.
Cool. Wow. Well, I think that like I think that's a pretty good question to end on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a really like. It doesn't sound like we end with the beginning in a way.
Pretty much.
Come full circle.
And now we explode.
Now we explode. Yes. I hope you're ready. I want to thank you for coming onto my live stream and like showing us all these.
It was
freaking amazing songs.
It was an absolute joy.
Yes.
I love being over, man.
Cool. I'm glad like you had a good time, and I hope everybody else who was watching had a good time. Yeah, it's just been a good time.
Oh yes.
I think I'll probably like play the song. Like, oh wow, my thing kind of glitched out the logo, but I'll play the song one more time.
No.
And and like that'll be kind of like the outro track. And yeah, just go follow Sekai on SoundCloud already, and go listen to it on Spotify. How many times do I need to say that? Just you need to do it. God, it's so good. And yeah, I think I might be on Sekai's live stream. I like, if nothing like I mean, maybe something crazy will happen and stop me from doing that. I'm not sure, but I plan to do it tomorrow. So I think
if not tomorrow, Wednesday. But
if not tomorrow, Wednesday. But I'm gonna try doing it for tomorrow, and yeah, that should be really, 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 really cool. Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen, but we'll find out. So yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Hi.
I've never walked these roads. It's hard to see the path unfold.